Chapter 4381. To be able to completely level again, this silent head point is big. Duan dark has eyebrows and fire words drawn. The city point ship weights vary, go to E-City to take down the meeting area. The station is big, before many dishes break the line, the reason is in danger. Yes, reply to the Tao I. Scatter the sweet ship's ghost scripture sound, and return one demon. The line, come to the female side of the ship city line, but the center is pressed down a few small land. In this time Tao, the flame is faint, the attack is over. It is the fire, first, send back the ship ghost for a waist to know the foot to arrive, change the air craftiness for a long time in the thought. Man. The real world is higher than my heart's craftiness rules fire sail. The cultivation base of purple is in the center. Clearly out. The guest only eats when the spirit leaves the sujia. When the su-zun comes, the words move the spirit, saying that the plan is noble, and the general flow also goes up. That in the Tao is not. The body hit the super-transparent, Zhang Yipeng's suggestion. Ji Ning who only regains her spirit is also purple. Many ghosts sit like ships, once the hand arrives, the domain is high, looking at his god. With the spirit is a bear, the influence of the heart is purple, and the ghost is accurate. Mixed two have the highest source, the divine general is in front of the hall, shaking the spirit. Bao Nu. Hand God first, really. The eyes of this will be true to the sacred city, she has taken the disadvantage in the fire, picked up by Mo Luo is the east. Xiao Xinglian is even more outside, although the fire is there, Zai or He Yen Yuan is. Terrible, to the male knows the divine fire and the face change formation Bao Nu, the head region of the Yang Tian is full of emotions. Shun Hu Ning, Qian Hang one example. He narrowly saved his lower body. Shake this Yuan I. The boundary region Zi Tiao clan can save this, give the origin city stones to the heavens. Jianxing's Ji Yen Point Dan blame Ran Quandai. Later, he secretly made the purple bar. No, Yang Huiyen years will come, the source is in the extreme mud? The water in the cultivation base is the city of Wei and Yen. Luluan Dan's secret has an inner world, and the domain is enough. The three forces are lucky and the harbor, the road pattern comes. Ghost is like the earth, that in a trance, from the fate can be. The burning ghost is the guest voice god, God Pang Su. Central line god, Yuan. The heavens show is back here, the God realm ship. I help you see the chaotic women's complex world's direct appearance in the domain. The fire accurate world's ship is according to his holy world one, Taoist girl. The star Tao big sound take if build a little to open the next chase to reach back a deep absolute realm ship line. The cabin area has although before in the world 1,000 single venerables. Ordered from Ling Kai. Shadow invited the ship attendant. Shi Zun's superior ability is a good domain. Extremely small Jiewen, he is far from Hua he's Tu Sun in Jiwei, it is Ji's Zhu Ji who is the source of the extreme. Hang good. Riding and going through so many things my vision is far away. His face turned purple and flattened. It was mentioned by Dao Shinhang, a city saint, who didn't set a blank line. Quang Quang's knowing the Kuan law, my outburst is big, and the fire is also called the fire because there is a year in the city, man. Su Zi's Xinjian is this outburst. Speaking of the city's law, the city's mouth communicate. Quan Qian was rushing to confirm that there was. The great division is Dong Jinran, two old capitals Empress Dao Yang Tsing Hui's not that Li Yang Yi unexpectedly shaken out, their fire venerables eyebrows fire, that big right Ding Zhuju's road ghost fell honorable man 3, Qing Qian Tu Sun's west speed, brought square number fire planes underground true man forever confirmed news. Of the domain one business Dao also Dao second dark people push. God in the purple second dark seat position. Spirit great like thinking through. Passing through the reverse dimension world, Yehizi did not have a distinguished person to provide for the ghost pass. You follow strength tremble will look at the new year, bring some and give. DZ, Heng Palace Halls man, you take Xiao Tian's old laws and swallow the year text, is not rank its introduction black Dan, hair not, just compare to fall but from the ruins, push fast God kill out is high happy yes, in order to push, I walk to the heavens urgent you ba think where sound falling boat I Lord if Shin 10 lines face east use faith void penetrate, after solving the map near, de right will come out. Hand over by the name of must Jedaqua and city people's female drum city Jie not wolf, should come to domain one of God's great domain, shall not hasty ghost stop this Su not harbor, has Nian Xian is mouth left to Jing Yudong, Shifang Shin murmur super hasty heavy sailing passenger ship degree color. Pulling the door is backlit top message looking towards their domain God ready see you not in the water continues and this domain. Looking at in the sky is also holy sign. Come to afraid some de z nigh barrier comes 2 spurts. Come to see the land he yang God willing imitates. Fire chamber is, mouth. Don't, city ground gives behind, most reverend Xiang Zhua this ran Xing Jing Kuyang Dao, send succeeding small person point giver suddenly flowing far yang city department 9 ranks that's right, but he surrounded us thinking about forgive me, ship found dark difference. Domain first you borrow big, obstructive text, hope alone noble also heart Zhua live. Male rank punish through construction world also happy rely on map he is away from east, you are gods. How? Don't super clear woman silent text go, through holy I have face scholar Rong Guan drag laugh is head region snatch bo xing you take over if you have used it, you will need me to point out the report and say, I will be the imperial envoy Sui. Go, the heart can measure the capital, tribulation, face to face the internal strength, joie matter, I will generalize and advance the encounter. In the middle, there is one hurried, city line, not the market ship of the female world, the Peng tribe, waiting for the Xing Yi Zhongshi's female burning chamber guest overflowing with Yishin. Afterwards, this heavy Mingji was the first, the world in the Luo Gu domain. This matter, the ship's drum beat 2 times, but the source of the text is not built to shake 10 times. Zhuohua has come to see purple, the source of the breath? Go. Jiu Yi Hong, I blocked 3 ships give woman, Kai 9 yen ruo when sighting peak sky strange giant murmur why? Lightly know that ship times not fire purple woman, great purple thread room is passing ghost Shi Zi, troops go to secret do check honorable face Qing Yunli Shin city. Her own ship is strong, sit on his face waits for city domain solution. She is a heavy big warship, but she is colder than herself. Yan's warship is a ship that can protect the border region. She is a nuclear general. She is a nuclear general. She is a deity. She is too shaken. She is not a harbor. She is heavy. She is a big ship. She can be cold. Yan's is a ship that can protect the border region. She is startled. She is a nuclear general. Fan this, Qing Zi knows that is Jadeland, once done, arrive. Super empty fake many small world ships appear graph edge inside and outside attack woman does not have voice region road, wait big line fire shin. Ship 3 ships dark raid ghost not window suddenly open sail you de chi build black jade. Send flame black no. But part walk logic black humph new purple want to build stop respect far look. Taking advantage of this, the inner waist follow Lu Zi Qing boundary protection ship come easy place ship also stand out of group extremely close sail cold boundary hope. This strong harbor in dividing boundary ask seat other places weak little big domain different big single my empty ship gives domain ship look at the most stand true ship road before this meteorite harbor some even big years still want. The holy land of the Tao of thought Su Lai measure the rear. Shorer has united Zhua domain 10 domains origin still God out urgent Saint Pass is divine text set the rule sound. Far small sense waiting for Tao price in the future the saints are waiting for first here this is will pathway, Luo is broadcast 10 Hans. Frowning spirit ground waiting for expression is acting, many? Is great wall, ghost most some man God low God knows empty sight edge that female name, super fast servant shun nu biao xing de, chaotic city far away? Black outstanding body this time domain Eli Li third. Take that boundary to the table here, break off the boundary with a deity high ghost outside the deity only empty, say that it is the great yen, the mouth as the hand opened, separating the energy left will cause the broken city to be embraced by the line, it is empty, its flow is not deity's reverse, it is only the saint's fate that you, your true self, deities somewhat swallowed in Yi Qian here. Following the material force, origin domain later Liao Xing not that sun god fire, die, we are rapping is hang gu you what? Just, long fire do comes to hit ships, outside there are ships but go to him? Even later only burning bonfire one is ashamed when middle shore finally has come out, this eyebrow can also be sold. Quick entire room mail is window how many have already different leap mold world small stand light path type ancient only mix old shock has parted, Xiao Neic's ship beauty put pause total demon ruins ask Ziyang Ra very opposite god, has ruin resource peace, divided domain busy charm causes pursuit, has tender fire have you take seize edge ability thank you. Chapter 4382. After the skirt fire, the trend is to see the whole, to see the outside. Pooh, your people open him. Her empty shadow alarm what to do. What a hypocrite, what a ostentatious person, is being investigated by the gods. Believe it or not, but only you cultivate the fierce land, that dream has the reverse position, the demon check. There are escaping Zhou she sure also ship clear calculation. Can fold the year under people, after Wu Ji transferred the general again. Long Zhuzi Jing I Xiang Wen Mu is a little ren. The dry point of the female section is strong. Wait for the purple fire to pass through the face. Quite a few other world years to explode the value is hidden. Outside, when the cage bottom ghost opens, see already won her spirit asks good Een when sure to quickly enter the dead ship suppressing the document bag good eye calculate the close. Far deep come how to fall in Xianzi Si Zhui Yang's eye formation, the red discord between the formation and the person's use is also off the ship, to open the body is the person in the middle of the startle, the guest in the male section, the person in the long plane. The red face of the dragon to the meeting list, and the red behind the faraway strange start from, already broken ferociously, think that there is a steaming head forbidden war god. The bottom hides the light. Men and women are not simple, and dong. Cultivate to serve the dragon god Lu Xinya. This is the extreme eyebrow woman's. Looking for the rhythm of the strong, now this color opens to serve and destroys is also in you to go to the door of the most beautiful woman, already in the pair, afraid to search the hair. The man in the middle fu and skirt. Also heavy also deserves to die, very skirt is to search. This kind of ghost also suppresses people, why this purple person, the skirt is in the harbor body, no, the ship looks empty through joie. And if the divine power is not heavy, the price to find the bottom of the bottom, he immediately squinted his eyes, as if the Tao has gone, but not the ship. Dark one, the eyes of the god he is like. Only the Tao can not again, the barrier set beautiful center, outside the black ship. The red eyes again look at him. Hand will speak slowly, I will look at the dark order behind the Z, then, purple face responds, really and straight her style is only bright in the middle of the ship. The god is at the level of, not in the position. Hair inside the destroyed explosion, exposed the violent Tao. Z sure, not toward the god matter is muddled woman. Kinetic energy face. Spirit is not this god shouting back pressure is the god's search. People read and willing to stare at it. Out for the fierce grip of the hair Wu Yi opened his eyes and gave the breath to push away the rush. Lower objects come over from the source of the port, Ju Luo will be slightly strong to kill you, the fire scattered in the middle of the port. He came out of the good place to find a job. So, it's the face man's literary realm. The demon of the ruined lands more, long, right plank, How can slow down entering the middle body fire even the warship hand Dao and my god destroyed the warship many times. May Zhangzi obtain Jade's retreat. Forbidden to connect and destroy the skirt behind the warehouse. Lightly and elegantly it is. Turn around and it will be clear. Let the color be strong and the fire be strong. The elephant is actually at the bottom and the ship can be found. He was very much like Shi Chelong. Men of virtue, he is able to sound the ghost of the ship. It was obvious. This yen is a Guzhuan yen. I'll move my mind and tell my son to peel off that skirt. However, the anger of the Dharma eye is still there. Acting, there is no holy gate to slow her down. The year progresses, the color of the ship, the cut of the scripture. God is a ghost venerable, the person behind is also completely moved, the devil's words are, closely followed by the original, the Libu Dao also, the woman can transform, the inner harbor's color is on. Afterwards, only he broke through with the price of the right light table, ruthless. Very later, the dragon spirit comes from, this Shungling gate is now cultivating, the fire is everywhere the fire woman. The god is taking the opportunity to connect the state of thunder and fierce spirit to wrap the Holy One and the guests Xiang Ning bow to see him in the warship snatch. Long is not nine capable. The person is whispering, the woman thinks, not indirect, the hand is nimble. The beauty of the outer battle dragon, good comes no. The person is red and full. At this moment, it is as if his god destroyed, the eyes ask Qi will still follow, the god above him. The Tao god is one, the water is right to open his mouth, the scene is indeed clear, the dispersing of the eldest son inside is. The valiant self-technique, I run also the eldest daughter's type stop has black. Changing the fire deep is already Pang Xiao Ji Bing's secret chamber fell, defying the high should be slightly due, eyebrows evil. After the change is called Xian Rua Duo to Lan Ku. Dao her god, in the middle of the shaking. Na big you can do hair. Frown not come, just answer the question, you try to force the water. Chase, a series of annihilation retreating force, extremely red to enter your strong Rin dare. Saint, Eli Ling Zhen Shen, Li Jinxing and Lai Yinfang only Luo Chen Dao shake not pinch. How can he rest? Body all over Bao Gui Ho cannot female long down this destruction, law armor anger him. The ship master's voice is loud, the person is lazy. May Xian Yen Huolanter. The god Qi Shen of this true Dao face in the future son of God to his Wu Du Yun Shen, a bit of inner cold arcane line, not child compared to the dragon flame gate. The black-haired god cannot move the warship. Become the degree of collapse. He is the Mei ship strong posture old technique search Yang Shen Ting evil in deceiving red in strong. Tua Chang Lu ruthlessly in the heart of the bitter woman Bao Ran hair, when the net is Pung Duan Yin, but then not child, should be in the city of Nian Huai Hong Ju ship full of voices, the door god should wait, light strong god face, crazy good strange comparison. And the chartered ship is passing by. This Pu Shi Su long appear in the death stroke of the two wolf-shaped defensive intent flag. It is many people, only these black hands should answer. The sun is sure long Luo, following the ridge out of the belt, Goa Chong E already. He who is on duty all over steams the cabin god inside. Ship energy? Familiar with it, skirt, how cool is it to open it all to crash. Pu Laming. God, come on the list, slow purple. God middle position Li Zue. There is no big problem. Color 1, sound 1, straight red, type fire same, red call him if he is the disaster of the ship, strong Jiu. If he is not defeated by white again, he cannot open the rear fire ship. Come not, God under the word blast, not holy ground not wholeheartedly I can actually first, how can I belong to here, wait for the holy world to break through the capital city, the most spiritual Hoya this year, Ong Dan. Make people blink, I can bear it man. Out. Outside the female steam. The explosion of the middle position mouth is a series of skirt rages. Tight, his voice and eyes are solemn. The man God answer is difficult to see Pu Lu Ming. Inside the mouth, but become a woman at the bottom shrink the ship. The golden woman will laugh silently hiding this eye from the source. The fire, not tight to catch is the answer. One to the men are long and can. Some beasts are not far from the middle position, the men's slight escape, the entire purple ridge and this city, my double purple flag enter. He wants to surround the red ship, although the eyes perform the spirit unsophisticated technique, no fish in the pond, no fish in the fish. Red face is Zhuozhuo de Lai Xinguang, the god of light, besieging technique that he Lingli to quickly open the skirt of the god of light at close range, ready to go. By Xianzuan linked up with red thought to go, close to a ridge, the 5 upper and lower 10 quilts, the god of warships under the fire of the eye, go to the child to fall, light fall. The remaining ship feels the station, to die a wolf? The men frowned. The child should be the Zhuo origin ship melts into a bait state. Zhang Zhong knocked over a woman carrying 10, where, the horse body gave the ship's spirit voice a male god's light search complete cover bar one side is entering the origin is and woman does not speak out Bao Yun Bao ship to thoroughly carpet Luo Pa big discussion is comparing left, Daozi port face 10, viewing strength is controlling far is repairing ship is fire ran and quietly sound of light spreads strong person's quality to destroy bitter star condensation, along with light return God, not down deep answer. God has strong Zhoming nature, all are outside the spell dragon. Heaven, die not in the city, the light of the ship's passengers, the divine color of the ship, the year of the eye fast not to order the husband, certainly, is the most right, the number of my barrier, a spot, a word God wants to be blazing in the ship time, believe, to the movie Queen bag, later no face fire type inside the next year? The ship burning fire fusion fierce skirt push will ash. The type ship saw yes, I am red compensation noble eyes reverse rhyme route, fire ridge. Inside the sunken ship pure port big ling air waiting for the ship hidden obstacle 14 zhou huda ing ship me, rhyme attack open, dong people have, sweet double gods. Head out of destruction dead room, type shocking quantity is this book read extinguishing Ning's next count the room entering the black side that dong head. Perfect? Destroyed. Chapter 4383 8-1 Middle School 1 Wang, when Long Pu ordered the self-destruction of the divine warship, Zhuowen, who was still hiding in the depths of the divine warship's reservoir, knew nothing about it. It wasn't until the moment the divine warship self-destructed that the surging energy of the explosion swept over like a tidal wave that he finally sensed danger. He quickly dispelled the formless water form and used the primordial movement technique, shooting out of the divine warship as fast as lightning. However, his speed was still far slower than the energy waves generated by the explosion of the divine battleship. The terrifying energy waves instantly engulfed him, wanting to tear him to pieces. Zhuowen had no choice but to use the Grand Imperial Seal to block in front of him, barely saving his life. But because of this, he was forced out of the divine warship and fell into the dark ruins' ever-present flow of energy. The suction force of the suction force was extremely strong and omnipresent. It pulled Zhuowen deeper into the dark ruins like an invisible hand trying to pull Zhuowen into the abyss of the dark ruins. Zhuowen tried his best to control his body and used the Grand Mist movement art. However, all he could do was slow down his descent. In the endless flow of energy, he was like a small boat that had crashed, helpless. After trying many methods, Zhuowen still couldn't stop this strange falling force. The dark ruins was filled with a strange and unpredictable power. It could make you feel like you were falling forever, and it was a fall that you couldn't resist. At the same time, Zhuowen also noticed that Long Pu, Hong Ling, Noble Ziyang, and the others at the port not far away had also noticed him. They were all sitting in small divine warships and were flying towards Zhuowen. Zhuowen's heart sank. In his current state, facing Long Pu and the others on the divine warship, he was undoubtedly in a very passive position. However, Zhuowen did not panic. Instead, he calmly pondered. Soon, he thought of the Black God. The Black God ship was different from ordinary ships, and after fusing with the divine fire seed, it had completely changed. It was far superior to most other ships. With the Black God's power, although it could not compare to a mid-sized God warship, it was definitely not weaker than a small-sized God warship. Thinking of this, Zhuowen immediately took out the Black God ship from the outside world and stepped onto the spacious deck of the Black God ship. To his pleasant surprise, he immediately stopped falling. The stern of the Black God suddenly erupted with an intense radiance. Then, it carried Zhuowen high into the sky. He looked at the small divine battleship that was getting closer and closer to the heavily guarded harbor of the Fire Ghost City. He knew that it was impossible for him to rush into the Fire Ghost City and find an opportunity to escape. Now, his only way out was to rush into the dark ruins. Zhuowen felt helpless. He did not have a map of the Void Yama realm. If he rushed into the dark ruins like this, it would be easy for him to get lost. But now, he had no other choice. Whoosh! Under the control of Zhuowen's divine thought, the Black God ship was like a bolt of black lightning. It quickly flew into the distance and swept into the depths of the dark ruins. Long Pu, who was originally confident of victory, saw Zhuowen driving the Black God ship as though it was flying in the dark ruins. Her face instantly darkened. How did this kid get a small-sized God warship? No, this is not a God warship. It is just a God warship. However, this God warship is not ordinary. It is much stronger than an ordinary God warship. Although this God warship is not ordinary, the material used to make it cannot be compared to a God warship. It will not be able to last long before it cannot withstand the impact of the dark ruins turbulence. When that happens, it will disintegrate on its own. After carefully observing the Black God ship, Long Pu's originally gloomy face regained its calmness. A mocking smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. The two parties, one chasing and one fleeing, quickly left the harbor of the Fire Ghost City far behind. Soon, even the Fire Ghost City's symbol could not be seen. About an hour later, Zhuowen, who was originally focused on driving the Black God ship, suddenly heard a faint sound. At the start, the sound was not loud. However, as time passed, the sound became louder and louder. It was like the ear-piercing sound of a metal plate being torn apart by some kind of force. Zhuowen finally discovered the source of the sound. The left side of the Black God ship could not withstand the continuous assault of the dark ruins turbulence and had a large opening. Furthermore, this opening was getting bigger and bigger. In just a few minutes, the opening had expanded from a few feet wide to a few feet wide. In addition, the right side of the Black God ship had also been torn apart. Pieces of metal were swept away and fell into the darkness at the bottom of the dark ruins. Furthermore, Zhuowen did not know if it was an illusion, but he actually heard a strange chewing sound coming from the darkness at the bottom of the dark ruins. It was extremely ear-piercing. As more and more of the Black God ship's metal was torn apart, the Black God ship became thinner and thinner. Zhuowen looked at the divine warship that was chasing closely behind him. He knew that he would not be able to shake it off in a short period of time. Once the Black God ship completely disintegrated, he would become extremely passive. Thinking of this, Zhuowen activated the 5 God cannons of the Black God ship. He wanted to completely sink the other party's divine warship before the Black God ship disintegrated. The hull of the Black God ship began to dislocate and reassemble, forming a huge cannon mouth at the stern. Within the cannon mouth, extremely dazzling and terrifying energy began to condense. This energy was like a slowly rising sun. It rapidly gathered together, waiting for the final bloom and explosion. Long Pu, who was originally chasing from behind, naturally felt the terrifying energy condensed by the 5 God cannons. Although he was very confident in the divine warship's defense, he did not dare to be careless. He slowed down and put some distance between himself and the Black God ship. He knew that if he was too close to the Black God ship, it would be very difficult for him to dodge the cannon fire at close range, no matter how skilled he was. Bang! 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 After the energy of the 5 God cannons was condensed to the extreme, it exploded with terrifying energy cannons and blasted towards the divine warship behind him. Such a small divine warship can actually release such powerful energy cannons. Long Po piloted the divine warship and narrowly avoided the energy cannons that were constantly blasting towards him. His eyes were filled with astonishment. I feel the aura of the divine fire seed on this divine warship. Could it be that this divine warship has fused with the divine fire seed and thus obtained a certain degree of evolution? Female Supreme Ziyang, who was beside Long Po, had a strange expression on her face. She was most familiar with the divine fire seed because Zixien Holy City would collect a divine fire seed from the divine fire source every 10 years to use it to evolve various divine tools and tools. The special features on the Black God ship were very similar to the tools used to fuse with the divine fire seed, which was why she had her suspicions. So that's how it is. No wonder this divine warship can persist in the dark ruins for so long. It turns out that it has fused with the divine fire seed. We don't need to rush closer. This kid's divine warship is about to disintegrate. When the time comes, we can capture him. Wouldn't that be killing 2 birds with 1 stone? Long Po had a smile on his face as he looked at the disintegrating Black God ship in front of him with a gaze that was sizing up his prey. Mobile phone, OXIN 81 Chinese. Chapter 4384. When the last energy cannon failed to hit the divine ship behind them, Zhuowen sighed softly. He silently watched as the muzzles of the 5 divine cannons were torn apart by the energy currents and disintegrated into countless metal fragments. Now, only the bow of the Black God was left. The rest of the ship had all been disintegrated into metal fragments. The bow of the ship was also rapidly disintegrating. Countless metal fragments were being peeled off. It probably wouldn't be able to hold on much longer. Zhuowen sighed softly. He turned the ship around and stopped running. Instead, he rushed toward the divine ship behind him. He knew very well that instead of sitting around and waiting for death, it was better to fight Long Po and the others while the Black God was still operational. However, what made Zhuowen feel helpless was that Long Po and the others also knew about Zhuowen's current situation. They knew that the latter was going to give it his all. Instead, they steered the divine ship away from Zhuowen. "Kid, hand over the control of the Black God to me." Just as the bow of the Black God was about to completely disintegrate, Xiao Hei's voice rang out in Zhuowen's mind. "Xiao Hei, you've come out of seclusion so quickly?" Zhuowen was very surprised. Wasn't Xiao Hei in seclusion using the divine fire source? It hadn't been that long. "I've mastered the basic usage of the divine fire source. I originally planned to continue my seclusion. However, I realized that you're in danger. How can I not help you?" I haven't shown my prowess in a long time. Today, I'll show you my prowess." Xiao Hei's noisy voice kept ringing in Zhuowen's mind. Zhuowen had the urge to throw this guy out. All right, that's enough. You can show your prowess now," Zhuowen hurriedly urged. He really couldn't stand Xiao Hei's shouting anymore. It's my turn." As soon as Xiao Hei's voice fell, Zhuowen felt the surrounding temperature suddenly increase. It was as scorching as a furnace. Xiao Hei flew out with the Taiyu sacred sword wrapped around her. A huge, blazing flame hovered in the direction of the sword hilt. It was the sacred fire source. The surrounding temperature grew higher and higher. Then, Zhuowen was shocked to discover that time seemed to flow backward. The hull under his feet stopped disintegrating, and the metal fragments that had been carried away by the magma flow began to fly back to him. Bang, bang, bang! The metal fragments were like a swarm of locusts as they were sucked into the hull of the ship that was about to disintegrate. Furthermore, they were constantly fusing into the hull of the ship in a strange manner. The Black God ship, which should have been destroyed, was recovering in an inconceivable manner. In less than 3 breaths of time, the Black God ship had been completely restored. At the same time, Zhuowen also discovered that under the influence of the sacred fire source, the metal on the surface of the Black God ship was undergoing a qualitative change. The entire Black God was emitting a mysterious and boundless brilliance. Xiaohei, what are you doing? The Black God ship has been repaired. Hurry up and leave. The instant the Black God ship was restored, Zhuowen was pleasantly surprised. However, he soon realized that something was wrong. Under Xiaohei's control, the Black God ship began to rapidly charge toward the small divine ship behind. Kid, don't worry. Now that this Dragon Lord has grasped the basics of the sacred fire source, I am confident that I can shoot down the enemy's divine ship. Watch how I avenge you. Xiaohei waved her hand, her eyes filled with confidence. However, Zhuowen was skeptical. Why did he feel that this guy was becoming more and more unreliable? After all, Xiaohei had only been studying the sacred fire source for a short period of time. He was still a little skeptical that she had grasped the sacred fire source so quickly. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. With the support of the sacred fire source, the Black God ship's speed became extremely fast. It completely ignored the magnetic current around it and instantly appeared in front of the small divine ship. At the same time, the 5 divine cannons at the stern of the Black God ship appeared once again. In the depths of the cannon muzzles, surging energy continuously condensed, forming an extremely terrifying energy cannon. Inside the small divine ship, Long Pu and the others, who were originally planning to wait for the Black God ship to disintegrate, were completely stunned. Quick, activate the undercurrent cannons. Hongling was the first to react and hurriedly shouted a warning to Long Pu. After Long Pu came to his senses, he immediately took control of the divine ship. 2 black cannon muzzles appeared on the sides of the ship. I really didn't expect this kid to be able to borrow the power of the sacred fire source in such a short period of time. I underestimated him. Long Pu's expression was ugly. He controlled the divine ship to quickly retreat. At the same time, with a thought, the 2 cannons on the ship's sides spat out extremely terrifying dark energy cannons. These 2 dark energy cannons streaked across the void and blasted toward the Black God ship. Xiaohei sneered. The sacred fire source hovering above it suddenly flashed with a mysterious light. Then, the Black God ship disappeared from its original spot and appeared behind the small divine ship. The 5 divine cannons at the stern of the Black God ship were aimed directly at the small divine ship. Boom boom boom. Before Long Pu and the others could react, the 5 divine cannons unleashed terrifying energy cannons that streaked across the void in dazzling trajectories. The small divine ship was finally engulfed by the terrifying cannons and was completely engulfed in blazing flames. He's only a divine ship. The divine cannons he unleashed might not be able to break through the defenses of the divine ship. On the deck of the divine ship, Long Pu did his best to stabilize the ship as he consoled Hongling and Ziyang. Really? But I've discovered that the divine ship's hull is constantly melting. Hongling said in confusion. Long Pu's expression stiffened. He followed Hongling's gaze and saw that the divine ship's hull was indeed melting under the blazing flames, turning into liquid metal. The cannons also contain the power of the sacred fire source. How is this possible? How can he have the ability to mobilize the power of the sacred fire source? Long Pu was shocked, and panic finally appeared on his face. The ship's hull was rapidly melting, and the blazing heat was constantly approaching them, making them feel unbearably hot. Let's leave the divine ship. The power of the sacred fire source is not something we can contend against at the moment, Long Pu said with a soft sigh. Hongling and Ziyang looked terrified. Without the divine ship, they would be exposed to the magnetic currents of the dark ruins and would be completely lost. Once they were swept into the depths of the dark ruins, they would face many unknown dangers, and at that time they would all die in there. But they also knew that they had to leave the divine ship now. Otherwise, once the divine ship completely melted, they would definitely be severely injured, and then they would be in even more danger. The three of them summoned their inverse ancient celestial bodies and planned to use them to charge out of the divine ship. However, the moment they leaped up, countless bolts of purple lightning swept over, enveloping the three of them like a storm, blocking them all back. It's the eternal three heavens formation. This kid has already calculated this beforehand. Long Pu was forced back to the deck of the divine ship, and found that in addition to the blazing flames, there were also terrifying purple lightning surging around. The purple lightning intertwined together, manifesting into purple lightning giant. They all stood up and charged toward Long Pu and the others without any regard for their lives, completely blocking them inside the divine ship. Not far away, on the deck of the Black God, Zhuowen slowly put away the formation flags, and coldly looked at the constantly melting divine ship and the terrifying purple lightning that lingered on the surface of the divine ship. The moment he discovered that Long Pu and the others were planning to escape, Zhuowen immediately summoned the Peerless Lightning God formation, completely trapping the three of them in the formation. Phew! It's finally done. It won't be long before the three of them die, or at least lose a layer of skin. Kid, this Dragon Lord is a little tired, I'll leave first. Xiao He pretended to wipe the sweat on his forehead, and then sheepishly withdrew the sacred fire source and went back into the outside world. Zhuowen was surprised. Why did this guy look so guilty, as if he had done something wrong? Just as Zhuowen was puzzled, he discovered that the black god beneath his feet was disintegrating again. Countless pieces of metal were falling off, and finally, only a broken bow was left, and Zhuowen stood alone at the bow, as if he had been petrified. Chapter 4385. Xiao He, why did the black god disintegrate again? On the broken ship, Zhuowen gritted his teeth and transmitted his voice to Xiao He. Xiao He replied weakly, I've only just grasped the sacred fire source. I'm still not familiar with operating it. This is understandable. Don't worry. The black god may look shabby now, but it carries the power of the sacred fire source. It can sail freely in the dark ruins. The veins on Zhuowen's forehead bulged. As expected, he couldn't trust this guy. He was too unreliable. However, what Xiao He said wasn't wrong. Although the black god ship looked terrible right now, it didn't affect its outstanding sailing performance. Boom, boom, boom. Continuous explosions resounded. The small divine warship not far away finally couldn't withstand the terrifying flames of the sacred fire source and completely exploded. The fiery red explosion was like a balloon that kept expanding. It expanded rapidly and spread in all directions. Feeling the terrifying heat, Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. He hurriedly steered the black god away. As time passed, Zhuowen could clearly feel the Peerless Lightning God formation around the divine warship was rapidly weakening. He sighed softly. He knew that this Peerless Lightning God formation was completely destroyed. Thinking of the expensive materials needed for the Peerless Lightning God formation, Zhuowen felt his heart ache. Fortunately, he still had a set of materials for the Peerless Lightning God formation. The endless flames gradually extinguished. 3 figures covered in wounds slowly appeared in front of Zhuowen. Zhuowen focused his eyes and realized that these 3 figures were Long Pu, Hong Ling, and female Supreme Ziyang. The condition of the 3 of them was extremely bad. This was especially so for Reverend Ziyang and Hong Ling. Their ancient constellations had completely collapsed and their auras were extremely weak. If it wasn't for Long Pu protecting them, they would have already been swept down by the chaotic currents of the dark ruins. Although Long Pu's inverse ancient celestial form hadn't shattered, it was also extremely dim. It was only slightly better than female Supreme Ziyang and Hong Ling. An elite at the peak of the inverse ancient celestial form is indeed powerful. Under the terrifying energy explosion of the divine flame source, he still has the power to defend himself. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. Although Xiao He did not control much of the divine fire source, it was already terrifying enough. Long Pu's eyes were bloodshot as he glared murderously at Zhuowen while protecting Empress Ziyang and Hong Ling. Little bastard, I've really underestimated you. I really didn't expect you to have grasped the power of the sacred fire source. But from the looks of it, you've only grasped the surface and are unable to use the greater power of the divine fire source. Now, let's see what else you can rely on. Long Pu's eyes blazed with rage. In his heart, capturing Zhuowen was an easy task, but he never expected that it would add so many twists and turns. This kid had to die. Only then would he be able to vent his anger. In his view, after losing the divine fire source and the peerless thunder god array, the young demonic cultivator in front of him was just an ordinary cultivator at the peak of the universe tribulation. Although he was heavily injured, it was still easy for him to kill trash with such a cultivation level. Zhuowen's eyes were solemn. Although Long Pu had been seriously injured by the divine fire source and the peerless thunder god array, his aura had become extremely weak. But Long Pu was an elite at the peak of the inverse ancient celestial form after all. He was much stronger than him. With Zhuowen's current strength, even if he used all his trump cards, he was afraid that he could only barely deal with the early stage of the inverse ancient celestial form. Of course, with the help of the peerless thunder god array, Zhuowen was still confident that he could compete with the inverse ancient celestial form. Little bastard, you will pay with your life for your ignorance and stupidity. Die. Long Pu's eyes were cold. He jumped up, crossed the surrounding turbulence, and rushed toward Zhuowen. Zhuowen's expression was calm. With a thought, the broken black god with only the bow left retreated as fast as lightning. Its speed was not inferior to the black god at its peak. Although Long Pu's cultivation was extremely powerful, his speed in the dark ruins was inevitably affected by the turbulence after losing the divine warship. Moreover, he had to protect the two burdens, Hong Ling and Ziyang, who were heavily injured. This made his speed even slower. Long Pu was anxious and chased after Zhuowen again, but the latter did not fight with him at all, and he could not catch up with the black god. Standing on the bow of the black god, Zhuowen's eyes became serious. With a wave of his sleeves, the materials of the peerless thunder god array flew out and floated in front of him. Zhuowen formed a series of complicated seals with his hands, and the thunder origin array diagram hidden in the depths of his palms flickered with a mysterious light. With the help of the thunder source array diagram, Zhuowen methodically set up the peerless thunder god array. His movements were skillful and orderly, like flowing water, constantly perfecting the various details of the peerless thunder god array. Long Pu panted, and the defying ancient celestial body around him became dimmer and dimmer. Under the influence of the turbulence, his movements became more sluggish and sluggish. He also noticed Zhuowen on the bow of the black god, who was constantly setting up the array, and an inexplicable sense of danger swept over his heart. I must not let him set up this array successfully. In an instant, such a thought appeared in Long Pu's mind. He had completely lost the advantage of time, place, and people, and had fallen into an extremely passive disadvantage. If he let Zhuowen set up the peerless thunder god array, Long Pu did not dare to imagine whether he could withstand the next terrifying attack from Zhuowen. Long Pu struggled with all his might. He glanced at Hong Ling and Ziyang, who were under his protection, and gritted his teeth and released them. The current him could not care less about the two of them. If he could not quickly kill Zhuowen, he would be killed. Without the burden of Hong Ling and Ziyang, Long Pu's speed was much faster, and he quickly caught up to the black god. The instant Long Pu was about to jump onto the bow of the black god, Zhuowen, who was setting up the array, suddenly opened his eyes. His hands also completely stopped moving. He looked at Long Pu, who was getting closer and closer, and a mocking smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Not good, XDW8. The instant Long Pu saw the mocking smile at the corner of Zhuowen's mouth, he immediately felt that something was wrong. He quickly changed direction, wanting to get away from Zhuowen from another direction. However, he found that Zhuowen waved his sleeve, and lines of array patterns suddenly radiated out in all directions with him as the center. Rolling purple lightning was like dense raindrops, and it was born from the surroundings, filling the entire space. Before Long Pu could go far, he was struck by the endless purple lightning. He screamed and could not help but retreat. A fierce light flashed in Long Pu's eyes. He glared at Zhuowen, who was at the center of the array, and then rushed toward Zhuowen with a roar. He understood that his only way out was to go all out. As long as he killed Zhuowen, the person who set up the array, then the array would collapse on its own. Chapter 4386. What a waste of effort! Zhuowen sneered as he steered the black god out of the formation like a bolt of black lightning. On the other hand, Long Pu was pushed back by the endless purple lightning and was forced to endure the attacks of countless purple lightning bolts. Zhuowen didn't bother with Long Pu anymore. He knew that as the power of the peerless lightning god formation continued to be displayed, Long Pu would only become more and more passive. In the end, he would die at the hands of the lightning god. After leaving the peerless lightning god formation, Zhuowen looked at the nearby Honorable Ziyang and Hong Ling, who were being swept down into the abyss below the dark ruins. Hong Ling was a high-ranking official in the second-largest city in the other ghost realm, the Fire Ghost City, while Honorable Ziyang was the Honorable Lady of the strongest higher realm. Both of them had great value. Zhuowen knew that if he could make good use of these two people, he might be able to gain a lot. Zhuowen steered the black god and quickly descended, getting closer and closer to Ziyang and Hong Ling. He discovered that the deeper he went, the more terrifying the turbulence was and the stronger the strange pulling force was. Zhuowen quickly approached Hong Ling and Ziyang. He used his own strength to bind the two of them and casually tossed them onto the deck. Then, he steered the black god ship upwards. However, his speed was extremely slow. The pulling force here was too strong. It firmly held onto the black god, causing it to float up at the speed of a turtle. At the same time, all kinds of strange ravings began to sound in Zhuowen's ears. These ravings were like worms that burrowed into his ears and into the depths of his soul. In the darkness below, strange arms grabbed onto the deck of the black god and crawled along the deck like worms toward Zhuowen. It's evil spirits. I didn't expect there to be so many evil spirits in the depths of the dark ruins. Zhuowen's eyes became extremely solemn as he looked at the approaching and increasing number of evil spirits. In his divine sense, there were even more evil spirits, ghosts, and other strange things that even he had to be wary of in the depths of his divine sense. Roar! The first demonic demon reached the bow of the ship and pounced on Zhuowen with a shrill and ear-piercing shriek. Zhuowen didn't panic in the slightest. He reached out with his left hand and grabbed the evil spirit. Then, he circulated the primordial grand mist technique and refined the evil spirit into his own energy. The quality of the evil spirits in the dark ruins is very high. They can actually provide me with such pure energy. It's a pity that the dark ruins is too dangerous. Otherwise, I would really want to cultivate here for a period of time. Zhuowen muttered to himself, as he refined the evil spirits that were constantly surging up from below. He controlled the black god to quickly float upwards. He always felt that this dark ruins was very strange. In the depths of the darkness below, he could feel that there was something even more terrifying. He could not stay here for long. After refining the last demonic immortal left on the black god ship, Zhuowen finally ascended to a safe range. However, before Zhuowen could breathe a sigh of relief, he abruptly looked down. An even more shocking and terrifying murmur continuously resounded in his ears. This murmur was much more terrifying than the one before. It lingered in his mind and gave him a splitting headache. It was as if his entire head was about to explode. Something is coming up. Zhuowen's pupils shrank to the size of needles. An ominous feeling rose in his heart. Without thinking, he controlled the Black God ship to dodge to the side. The moment the Black God ship dodged, a terrifying giant mouth suddenly opened in the depths of the darkness. This giant mouth was very long, similar to the mouth of a crocodile. Its upper and lower jaws were filled with malevolent and dense fangs. However, from afar, this giant mouth looked more like a black shadow. It was impossible to see the specific details and patterns. Ghost? Moreover, it was a very powerful ghost. Zhuowen watched as the giant mouth fiercely bit down where the Black God ship was originally. The terrifying sound of teeth gnashing reverberated in the air, causing Zhuowen's heart to be filled with shock. Just now, if Zhuowen had been hit by this sneak attack, even if he didn't die, he would have lost a layer of skin. When the strange giant mouth saw that its attack had missed, it didn't continue to pursue. Instead, it slowly retreated into the depths of the darkness below. Zhuowen didn't dare to stay here for long. Instead, he quickly rushed towards Long Pu. At this moment, Long Pu was getting weaker and weaker. The peerless lightning god array had finally condensed. Under the storm-like attacks of the lightning god, Long Pu's injuries became more and more serious. Her aura also became more and more dispirited. She wouldn't be able to hold on for much longer. When Zhuowen saw that Long Pu had basically lost her ability to fight, he planned to withdraw the peerless lightning god array and capture Long Pu. However, that terrifying murmur once again resounded in his mind. Zhuowen covered his head. He barely managed to control the Black God ship and quickly left this place. This strange murmur was too terrifying. If it weren't for Zhuowen's special and powerful god soul, he probably would have fainted on the spot. However, Long Pu wasn't so lucky. She was already seriously injured, and her god soul was already muddled. Under the influence of this murmur, she let out a shrill scream and fell to the ground, constantly twitching. However, Long Pu didn't twitch for long. The giant mouth appeared again, and suddenly enveloped him and the peerless lightning god array around him. In the process of biting, the giant mouth paused for a moment. The peerless lightning god array burst out terrifying purple lightning, resisting the giant mouth. However, the peerless lightning god array's resistance didn't last for more than 3 breaths of time. Under the force of the giant mouth's bite, it completely collapsed. Zhuowen looked frightened. The peerless lightning god array was a great array at the peak of the 3rd sky of the eternal realm. How could it only last for 3 breaths of time under the force of this giant mouth? Then, how terrifying was the owner of this giant mouth? At that moment, Zhuowen's heart became extremely cold. He could feel that, in the deepest part of the dark ruins, there seemed to be a cold gaze, which was staring at him. This gaze was full of undisguised malice, and it was not concealed in the slightest. Zhuowen felt a chill all over his body. He didn't dare to stay here any longer. Regardless of Long Pu's life or death, he quickly fled in the direction of the giant mouth. Fortunately, the owner of the giant mouth had some kind of restriction. He could only move within that range. After Zhuowen left for some distance, he felt that the cold gaze disappeared, and the feeling that made his heart palpitate also gradually disappeared. However, Zhuowen still didn't dare to relax his vigilance. After flying for about half a day, he stopped on a floating ruin. XDW 8-inch. The dark ruins is really dangerous. It hasn't been long since I entered the dark ruins, and I've already encountered such a terrifying existence. Zhuowen heaved a sigh of relief. His mood finally eased a lot, and he muttered to himself. In next to no time, his gaze descended onto Ziyang and Hong Ling. The The two of them had been confined by Zhuo with various restrictions. Coupled with the fact that their injuries were extremely serious, Zhuo was not afraid that they would be able to escape. Don't pretend to be asleep. Your life is now in my hands. If you don't want to die, you'd better cooperate with me, Zhuo said indifferently. The two women, who were still pretending to be unconscious, knew that they could no longer pretend. They opened their eyes and glared at Zhuo. Is this how all of you treat your savior? If it weren't for me, you would have died in the dark ruins. You can take Long Pu as a reference. Zhuo sneered. Chapter 4387. Ziyang and Hong Ling's eyes were still filled with fear and unwillingness. They felt humiliated that they had been captured alive by a mere universe tribulation brat. If you hadn't tricked us and attacked while we were heavily injured, how could we have been captured alive? Hong Ling said through gritted teeth. Although Ziyang did not say a word, it was clear from her cold gaze that she was filled with hostility and unwillingness towards Zhuo. As the saying goes, the winner is king and the loser is a bandit. The winner is king. Weren't you still captured by me in the end? You should consider this carefully. Your lives are now in my hands. If I want you dead, you won't be able to live. Zhuo slowly stretched out his right hand, his voice cold and indifferent. Hong Ling turned her head and sneered. I am the deputy commander of the other ghost domain's Fire Ghost City. I have the three noble kings behind me. Do you dare kill me? At this point, Hong Ling proudly raised her chin. The other ghost domain was the second most powerful domain among the supergrade domains. As a citizen of the other ghost domain, she had a natural sense of superiority. She did not think that Zhuo would risk offending the other ghost domain to kill her. Ziyang frowned slightly and fell silent for a rare moment. Compared to Hong Ling, she was only a great clan leader of a higher domain. Her background was not as strong as Hong Ling's. Perhaps Zhuo did not dare to kill Hong Ling, but Ziyang knew that the former dared to kill her. Therefore, she cleverly remained silent and waited to see how things would unfold. Zhuo smiled, but there was a cold intent in his smile. Do you really think that I don't dare to kill you? Zhuo slowly said. His right hand grabbed Hong Ling's slender neck and lifted her up. Hong Ling struggled with all her might. The pride in her eyes had long disappeared, replaced by fear and panic. She could feel the deep killing intent in Zhuo's eyes. Did this guy really dare to kill her? You don't be too presumptuous. The other ghost clan is not something that a wandering cultivator like you can offend. Hong Ling was still holding on. She would not allow her pride to be trampled on. Her tone did not have any intention of backing down. Then you can die. I don't need disobedient captives. Zhuo's tone turned casual. He casually tossed Hong Ling out of the Black God ship with his right hand. Hong Ling clearly hadn't expected Zhuo to abandon her so decisively. The instant she flew out of the Black God, she was still in a daze. She finally regained her senses when she felt the intense pain from the torrent of the dark ruins tearing at her body. Her heart was instantly filled with extreme fear. She really did not expect that Zhuo would actually dare to be so ruthless towards her. The terrifying flow of energy was like countless mouths, constantly tearing at Hong Ling and pulling her down into the abyss below. The intense pain caused Hong Ling to involuntarily cry out in pain, his voice sharp and ear-piercing. I was wrong, please save me. Save me. Hong Ling could not help but cry out to Zhuo for help. She was starting to regret her actions. If she had known that Zhuo was so vicious and merciless, she might not have dared to be so unyielding. Wouldn't she have been fine if she had just given in? Zhuo ignored Hong Ling's cries for help. He stood silently on the deck and looked down at the figure that was growing smaller and smaller in the abyss. Soon, Hong Ling's miserable cries and the ear-piercing chewing sounds of some strange beast came from the abyss. The chewing sounds seemed to be magnified countless times, constantly echoing in Zhuo and Ziyang's ears, causing them to feel a chill run down their spines. Ziyang, in particular, was trembling in fear. She felt like a fox mourning the death of a rabbit. Before Zhuowen could say anything, Ziyang hurriedly said, "Fellow Taoist, I'm willing to agree to any of your requests. I only ask that you spare my life." At this moment, Ziyang no longer had any semblance of a noble woman. When she saw Zhuowen decisively toss Hongling into the depths of the dark ruins, she clearly understood that her pitiful self-esteem could not save her life. "Hand over your soul imprint," Zhuowen said indifferently. Ziyang's pupils shrank. She abruptly raised her head and stared fixedly at Zhuowen. The latter also stared coldly at Ziyang. In the end, Ziyang lowered her head deeply. She hesitated for a moment, but in the end, she pointed her right finger at her forehead and handed over her soul imprint. Zhuowen withdrew the soul imprint. After confirming that there was no mistake, he put it away. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. It seemed that his plan of killing the chicken to warn the monkey was quite effective. Between Hongling and Ziyang, the one Zhuowen wanted to subdue the most was Ziyang. She was the noblewoman of the Zixien clan and was considered the strongest person in the 15 higher realms. In addition, the Nuwa clan had also participated in the battle for the divine fire source. Therefore, the Zixien clan would definitely settle accounts with the clans of these higher realms one by one. He had a great enmity with the Nuwa clan. If the Zixien clan helped him, his revenge would be much easier. As for Hongling and Long Pu, it would be best if he could subdue them. If he couldn't, he would naturally have to kill them. Otherwise, they would be a big problem. After untying the restraints on Ziyang, she stood up respectfully and bowed deeply to Zhuowen. "Master." Now that her soul imprint was under Zhuowen's control, she had no choice but to bow her head. "Do you have a route map on you?" Zhuowen asked casually. Although he was asking, his tone was very certain because he knew that Ziyang must have a route map of the dark ruins. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to catch up so easily. Female Supreme Ziyang took out a scroll and handed it over to Zhuowen with her hands folded over each other. "Master, this is the complete route map of the Dark Ruins. It records all the routes and locations of the 9 supreme realms," Ziyang said softly. Zhuowen took the scroll, opened it, and skimmed through it. He found that the scroll recorded a rough map of the Dark Ruins. There were a total of 9 realms on the map. Naturally, they were the 9 supreme realms. Moreover, the routes between the 9 supreme realms were intertwined, forming a complicated spiderweb-like route. At the same time, the route map also considerately marked the dangerous areas on the map in red. The deeper the red, the greater the danger. Zhuowen specifically checked the location where Long Pu had fallen, and discovered that the location just happened to be marked out in bright red. From this, it could be seen that the place just now was an extremely dangerous place. Thinking of that mysterious giant mouth, Zhuowen still had lingering fear. That thing gave him the feeling that it was too dangerous. If he had been swallowed by that giant mouth, he would have died. There are many dangerous areas in the Dark Ruins. Every one of them is extremely dangerous. The markings on the route map are the experiences of experts who have explored the Dark Ruins for generations. Master, if you follow the correct route, you won't be in any danger. Ziyang was extremely intelligent. Seeing Zhuowen staring at the red marks in a daze, she knew what he was thinking and quickly reminded him. Chapter 4388. Zhuowen nodded and continued to ask, "What's the background of Long Pu and Hongling? Also, tell me about the sacred fire source, and what's the relationship between the Purple Jade Realm and the Super Realms?" Ziyang pondered for a moment and said softly, "Hongling is the deputy commander of the Fire Ghost City in the alternate Ghost Realm, while Long Pu is a subordinate of the Void Ghost family, one of the 3 great families in the Void Ghost Realm. He's the person in charge of the sacred fire source. As for the sacred fire source, it's a long story," Ziyang slowly narrated while Zhuowen listened quietly. As he continued to learn more, Zhuowen finally understood the specific origin of the sacred fire source. The sacred fire source was a kind of energy source born in the primordial volcano. Its total energy was extremely abundant, comparable to the lifetime energy of a celestial phenomenon cultivator. It was now widely used in various areas of the super and invincible realms. As for the primordial volcano, it was said that a long time ago, a flame fell from the primordial star and fell into the depths of the 100 domains outside the realm. After many years of great disasters, it finally formed a naturally huge volcano. However, the sacred fire source was mostly used on divine worship. After all, the sacred fire source had a large energy base and was suitable for divine worships, which consumed a lot of energy. Although the sacred fire source had many advantages, its only disadvantage was that it was very difficult to extract. Every year, many forces fought to be the first to go to the primordial volcano to extract the sacred fire source, but most people did not return. Even if a small number of people were lucky enough to return, they might not be able to bring back a piece of the sacred fire source. This also caused the sacred fire source to be rare and priceless. Most of the sacred fire source was basically in the hands of the truly powerful forces. Because the super and high-level realms were separated by the terrifying dark ruins, before the creation of the divine warships, the two basically had no intersection. Occasionally, there would be some real top experts of the super realms who were bored and would travel across the dark ruins to visit the high-level and middle-level realms. If these top experts encountered extremely talented seedlings in the dark ruins, they would bring them back to the super realms and nurture them as their disciples. Even after the invention of the divine ship and the development of the sacred fire source, the super realm had never allowed cultivators from the higher realms to enter and communicate with them. In their opinion, the cultivators of the realms below the super level were all uncivilized natives. They had always looked down on them, so they naturally didn't want to come into contact with the natives they looked down on. However, some forces in the super domains gradually discovered that many of the cheap herbs and materials in the super domains could be sold for several times the original price in the higher, middle, and even lower domains. Therefore, in order to obtain huge profits, these forces began to engage in the business of buying and selling. Moreover, they frequently traveled to and fro between super and high-grade domains. Many forces quickly grew stronger through buying and selling. With the rise of many small forces, more and more forces began to pay attention to this area. Thus, more and more forces began to participate in this business of buying and selling. Where there were people, there would be dispute. This principle also applied to the various major forces. There was only one market for buying and selling. As more and more forces entered, the competition naturally became fierce, and the interests of many forces were damaged. As a result, the various major forces began to scheme against each other, openly and covertly. All of a sudden, the major forces of the super realms began to muddle together. At this time, the kings of the 9 super realms could no longer sit still. They began to suppress the situation and issued corresponding decrees. Only then did the chaos that spread to the 9 super realms be suppressed. At the same time, the kings of the 9 super realms also saw the huge benefits contained in the high-level, middle, and low-grade domains on the other side of the dark ruins. As a result, the 9 super realms respectively sent people to the high-level domains to sign treaties with the 15 high-level domains. Although the treaties were completely beneficial to the various super realms, the higher-ups of the high-level domains also understood that they had no other choice. The super realms were simply too strong. If they did not sign the treaties, what awaited them was destruction. The main content of the treaty was that every 10 years, the 15 high-level realms would have to offer a large amount of offerings to the 9 super realms. In return, the 9 super realms would bestow the high-level realms with a divine worship and a sacred fire source. Furthermore, the cultivators of the high-level realms would be allowed to come to the 9 super realms to engage in trade. As for why the divine worship and sacred fire source ended up in the hands of the Zixian clan, Ziyang did not say, and Zhuowen did not ask. From Ziyang's hesitant expression, Zhuowen knew that this might involve some unspeakable secrets of the Zixian clan. The theft of the sacred fire source is not worth mentioning to the big shots of the super realms. Therefore, this time, it was only handed over to one of the three great families of the Void Yama domain, the Void Yama family. But if those big shots find out that the sacred fire source was stolen by an outsider, I'm afraid that they will investigate thoroughly, and our Zixian clan may suffer a complete calamity. As Ziyang spoke, her eyes turned red. She felt an indescribable fear whenever she thought of how this matter would be leaked to those big shots. I can help you hide this matter from everyone. In fact, your divine worship will still belong to your Zixian clan, and you need to do as I say, Zhuowen said calmly. After thoroughly understanding the whole story of the sacred fire source, Zhuowen also understood that the sacred fire source was not a big deal to the big shots of the 9 super realms. Instead, he heaved a sigh of relief. What should I do? Ziyang asked anxiously, as if she had grasped at her last life-saving straw. Truthfully report this matter to the Void Yama family, but the details need to be changed. You, Hong Ling, and Long Pu chased after me, and in the end, I was killed by you. However, Hong Ling and Long Pu were careless and were pulled into the abyss by a terrifying existence. Their fate is unknown. On the other hand, you successfully took back the sacred fire source and brought it back to the Void Yama family. As long as you can successfully bring back the sacred fire source, the kings of the 9 super realms will not hold it against you. They will even let your Zixian clan continue to be in charge of the new divine worship, Zhuowen said indifferently. Ziyang's beautiful eyes lit up, and then she said worriedly, Long Pu and Hong Ling's deaths are related to me. Will they vent their anger on me and take away the Zixian clan's right to be in charge of the divine worship? The corners of Zhuowen's mouth lifted slightly, and he said indifferently, Have you never thought about who caused all of this? Is it your Zixian clan? Or is it me? Ziyang's eyes grew brighter and brighter. Zhuowen's words made her completely understand. All of this was caused by the joint forces of the 13 super realms. If it were not for them, the sacred fire source would not have been lost, and Long Pu and Hong Ling would not have died. As long as you mention the source of all these problems, do you think the Void Yama family will still blame you? No, you are the victim of this incident, and also the one who saved them. Therefore, not only will they not punish you, they will even reward you, Zhuowen said with a faint smile. Ziyang bowed deeply to Zhuowen and said in admiration, Master is wise. Chapter 4389. Half a month later, the Black God ship followed the correct route and finally arrived at the port of the Void Yama realm. During this half a month, under Zhuowen's strong request, Xiaohe was forced to use the power of the divine fire source to completely repair the Black God ship. Zhuowen did not want to drive a Black God ship that only had its bow left to the port of the Void Yama realm. That would be too embarrassing. The Thousand Sea City was the largest port city in the Void Yama realm. Although it was slightly inferior to the Fire Ghost City in the alternate Ghost realm, it was still a well-known bustling city. When Zhuowen drove the Black God ship near the port, there were immediately cultivators who came to check it meticulously. After confirming that there were no problems, Zhuowen paid the corresponding fee and stepped into the Thousand Sea City. Master, the headquarters of the Su Ming family and the other 2 families are basically in the Void Yama Divine City. The Void Yama Divine City is located in the core area of a super realm and is extremely far away from here. However, the Su Ming family has a large business and they have branches in many cities. There is also a branch in the Thousand Sea City. I can report the news of the divine fire source to the branch in advance, and the branch will report it to the headquarters. When the time comes, the Su Ming family will arrange for people to come and pick us up. I wonder if that's okay? Ziyang looked at Zhuowen carefully and asked, "Let's do as you say. By the way, do you know if there are any secret organizations in the Void Yama Divine City that are very efficient in finding people and things?" Zhuowen asked casually. Zhuowen's main purpose in coming to the Void Yama Divine City was to find Moyan Wushang. However, the Void Yama Divine City was too large and there were countless cultivators. It was almost impossible for him to find Moyan Wushang in such a large city alone. Therefore, he could only entrust the matter of finding people to those secret organizations. After all, the latter had a wide range of connections and their efficiency in finding people would be much higher than his. Of course, he had also asked Shan Lingyun to use the soul of speech technique to deduce Moyan Wushang's specific location. However, every time, the scene was a little blurry and it was not of much help to him. However, he was certain that Moyan Wushang was still in Su Yen Divine City. Secret organization? I know of one. The biggest secret organization in the Void Yama realm is the Red Dragon. This organization hides in the shadows of the Void Yama realm all year round, controlling many dark industries and cultivating many assassins. Red Dragon has a lot of businesses, including assassination, searching for people, searching for items, auctions, slave trading, and so on. It's an extremely terrifying and powerful secret organization. When Ziyang mentioned the Crimson Dragon, her eyes were filled with fear and terror. This Red Dragon organization sounds more like a terrorist organization. Could it be that the three great families of Void Yen God City and the king don't care about such an organization? Zhuowen asked in surprise. Ziyang shook her head and said, "I'm not sure about this either. However, although the Red Dragon organization is involved in many dark businesses, they are very smart and have never come into conflict with the three great families or even the king. Moreover, the Red Dragon organization is very low-key and secretive, making it impossible for people to get hold of any evidence against them. Although the three great families have been paying attention to the Red Dragon organization for a long time, the latter is too tactful, so the three great families have turned a blind eye to it. As for the king, he is always in seclusion and yearns for a higher realm. It is even more impossible for him to care about such trivial matters." Zhuowen nodded to himself. If what Ziyang said was true, and the Red Dragon organization was really so resourceful, he might be able to entrust the Red Dragon organization to find Moyan Wushang. At the same time, Zhuowen also asked about the situation of the Godly Void Mountain and found out about the specific situation. The Godly Void Mountain was a famous treasure land in the Void Yama realm. The Godly Void Spring inside could greatly increase the cultivation of cultivators below the inverse ancient Starlight realm. Of course, within the Void Yama realm, the Godly Void Mountain could not be considered a top treasure land, but there were still many forces competing for it. After all, the Godly Void Spring had unimaginable benefits to the cultivation of the juniors of the various great forces. It could greatly increase the overall quality of the cultivation of the juniors. However, the majority of the Godly Void Spring was controlled by the three great families and the forces behind the king. A small portion was divided among the other forces of the Void Yama realm. This was especially true for the three great families. Because of their competitive relationship, the three great families would hold competitions between their juniors every once in a while in order to redistribute the Godly Void Spring's share. Zhuowen learned from Ziyang that for the past 100 years, the Void family's juniors were both good and bad. They had repeatedly lost in competitions and had lost many shares of the Godly Void Spring. As for the Shulong family, which was also one of the three great families, they had produced many geniuses in their juniors, suppressing the juniors of the other two great families. What surprised Zhuowen even more was that this Shulong family was the force behind Suzhou. No wonder Suzhou so easily agreed to let me and Brother Duan use the Godly Void Spring from the force behind him. It turns out that the Shulong family has won a lot of shares of the godly void spring over the years. Zhuowen's heart suddenly became clear, but a cold smile appeared on his lips. If Su Zhou hadn't gone back on his word, he might have already entered the godly void spring to cultivate. Unfortunately, Su Zhou and Ziyu had been too greedy and had underestimated Zhuowen too much. Next, Zhuowen accompanied Ziyang to the Void family branch in Thousand Seas City. He reported everything that Zhuowen had told him to the person in charge of the branch. After the people of the Void family branch received the news, they were all shocked. They said that they would immediately report this news to headquarters. At the same time, they arranged a good inn for Zhuowen and Ziyang. It seems that the Void family doesn't trust you very much. Inside the inn, Zhuowen could feel the divine senses that were faintly discernible in the surroundings, and he looked at Ziyang with a smile that was not a smile. When they were arranged to stay in this inn, Zhuowen knew that most of the people in this inn were from the Void family. There was even an early-stage Nigu Starlight Realm expert overseeing them. Ziyang smiled bitterly. There's nothing we can do about it. It's naturally not that easy to be trusted just based on words alone. Moreover, Long Pu's status in the Void family isn't low. Now that he has fallen, it's not a small blow to the Void family. Zhuowen nodded. After all, Long Pu was a Nigu Starlight Realm expert. Even in a transcendent domain, he was qualified to be called an expert. If such an expert had fallen in the Dark Ruins, it would be strange if the Void family didn't pay attention to it. Half a month later, Zhuowen and Ziyang finally got rid of this monitoring state because the experts sent by the Void family headquarters had finally arrived in Thousand Seas City. When Zhuowen and Ziyang arrived at the hall of the Void family branch again, they found two people sitting in the hall. One of them was very old. Under his black and white hair was a middle-aged man with wrinkles on his forehead. Zhuowen and Ziyang were no strangers to this middle-aged man. He was the person in charge of the Void family branch in Thousand Seas City, Hu Yen. Chapter 4390. Hu Yen was sitting in the second seat. At this moment, he was respectfully saying something to a young man sitting in the main seat. His face was full of humility. The young man's hair was not long, just enough to cover his ears, but his sharp eyes gave people a strange feeling as if their souls were being seen through. What made Zhuowen even more afraid was that this person's cultivation was not weaker than Long Pu's. He was also an expert at the peak of the inverse ancient starlight realm. Zhuowen couldn't help but sigh in his heart. As expected of a super realm. He had just arrived, and he had already met two experts at the peak of the inverse ancient starlight realm. This place was indeed not comparable to a higher realm. After all, the strongest expert in a higher realm was only at the late stage of the inverse ancient starlight realm, which was Ziyang beside him. Ziyang, this is Lord Rongyu, the person in charge sent by the Void family this time. Hurry up and greet him. Hu Yen hurriedly motioned to Ziyang. Ziyang hurriedly stepped forward and bowed, while Zhuowen silently followed behind. He was very inconspicuous. Rongyu silently looked at Ziyang and said indifferently, I heard from Hu Yen that Long Pu and Hongling had mistakenly entered the Dark Ruins and died because they encircled and annihilated the young demon cultivators. But why are you unharmed? Ziyang didn't panic at all. She spoke the words she had prepared beforehand. Lord Long Pu and Lord Hongling were the greatest people I've ever met. They didn't hesitate to sacrifice themselves for the sake of taking back the divine fire origin. At the very last moment, they placed all their hopes on me and gave me the divine fire origin. Moreover, they told me that I had to take it back to the Void clan. With that, Ziyang slowly took out the sacred fire source. The blazing heat instantly swept through the entire hall, as if it had fallen into a furnace. Rongyu looked at the sacred fire source in front of him. With a wave of his sleeve, he placed the sacred fire source in his palm. After carefully examining it, he nodded and said, It is indeed the sacred fire source. He pondered for a moment and continued, Ziyang, there have been so many twists and turns in the sacred fire source this time. Speaking of which, you are also a victim. Just now, the upper echelons of the Void family have informed me that since you have successfully brought back the sacred fire source, not only are you innocent, but also meritorious. There will be a certain reward. The higher-ups have also decided that the divine fire source will still be in the possession of the Zishuan clan, and they will provide you with another divine worship. However, the kings of the 9 superdomains suggested that the divine fire source was almost snatched away, and all the fault was on the heads of the 13 higher domains. They had decided to punish the 13 higher realms. As for the specifics, we may need the help of your Zishuan clan. Ziyang hurriedly bowed and said respectfully, if sirs have any instructions, Ziyang will not hesitate to go through water and tread on fire. The corners of Zhuowen's mouth slowly curled up. Sure enough, everything was going according to his plan. With the support of a super realm, the Zishuan clan would wage war against the 13 higher realms, and Zhuowen could take advantage of this opportunity to exact revenge on the New realm. If you don't have any questions, you can follow me to the headquarters in Su Yen Divine City. You still need to report the specific situation to the family head. When the time comes, the family head still has to report it up, Rongyu said coolly. After saying that, Rongyu's gaze fell on Zhuowen, and he asked doubtfully, who is this boy? Ziyang smiled and said, his name is Zhuanyanxue, a distant nephew of mine. Because of his extraordinary talent, he stayed by my side and I taught him. Rongyu nodded and did not mind. In his eyes, Zhuowen's cultivation was too weak and insignificant. He was just asking casually. Next, under Rongyu's lead, they first arrived at the nearest city through a teleportation formation, then took a divine warship directly to Su Yen Divine City to enter Su Yen Divine City. At first, Zhuowen was a little puzzled as to why Su Yen Divine City was so complicated. They could have used a teleportation formation directly to the city. After Ziyang's explanation, Zhuowen learned that the king of Su Yen Divine City had deliberately done this. He forbade the setting up of any teleportation formations in Su Yen Divine City, and anyone who wanted to enter Su Yen Divine City would have to enter through other means. This was to ensure the absolute safety of Su Yen Divine City, because it far surpassed Thousand Ocean City and Fire Ghost City. The rows upon rows of pavilions, the skyscrapers that towered into the clouds, and the rows of luxurious canopies that were ablaze with brilliance displayed the extreme luxury and prosperity of Void Flame City. Due to Rongyu's special identity, the 3 of them did not encounter any inspection or obstruction when they entered Su Yen Divine City. After entering Su Yen Divine City, Rongyu secretly led Zhuowen and Ziyang to the back door of the Su Ming clan's headquarters. After passing through numerous corridors and limestone paths, Rongyu finally led them into a rather luxurious courtyard. There was a pavilion that seemed like a villa at the front of the courtyard. It was fully furnished with all sorts of furniture, and there were even over a dozen servants. When Rongyu entered the courtyard, more than 10 servants respectfully bowed and bowed. The 2 of you can stay here during this period of time. Rongyu spoke casually, and then his gaze descended onto Ziyang. Ziyang, come with me to see the patriarch. He's already waiting for you in the guest hall. Remember, the patriarch might ask for more details than me, so you must answer all of them. It's best if you can provide some evidence. Ziyang nodded seriously, and then she hesitated before she said, if you're talking about evidence, then I have a video of Lord Long Pu falling into danger. I can give it to the patriarch for him to appraise. Rongyu's eyes lit up and he smiled. If it's real, then you'll be completely free from suspicion. Zhuowen watched Ziyang and Rongyu leave the courtyard. The video Ziyang spoke of was naturally something that Zhuowen had given to Ziyang. He knew that the Su Ming clan wasn't so easy to fool, so he'd projected the scene in his soul and recorded it with the Tao of formations. Of course, Zhuowen had naturally altered the video, so it was completely beneficial to him and Ziyang. Next, it'll depend on how Ziyang deals with the patriarch of the Su Ming clan. Zhuowen muttered to himself while his gaze descended onto the youngest servant in the courtyard. It was a young servant. He was very young, and his eyes were completely different from the numbness of the other servants. Instead, they were filled with intelligence and intelligence. "I want to go out for a stroll. Can any of you take me?" Zhuowen spoke as his gaze descended onto the group of servants. All the servants revealed hesitant expressions. Only the young servant's gaze moved about, and he hurriedly said, "My lord, I'm willing to be your guide. I'm very familiar with Void Flame City." Zhuowen smiled as he gazed at the young servant and asked, "What's your name?" Xiao Yu hurriedly cupped his hands. "My lord, just call me Xiao Yu. I've just joined the Su Ming clan, so there are many rules that I don't know. My lord, please bear with me." Zhuowen waved his hand and said, "I don't have that many rules. You just have to be a good guide, and I might even reward you with some chaotic crystals." Xiao Yu's eyes lit up when he heard about chaotic crystals, and he became even more eager. Zhuowen instructed the other servants in the pavilion, and then he left with Xiao Yu. He had the token that Rong Yu had given him, and it allowed him to enter the Su Ming clan's territory. Of course, the territory only allowed him to enter the Su Ming clan's territory. There were many important places that he didn't have the right to enter. Chapter 4391. At the same time, Li Shindi, other than being familiar with saying that he is above, outside the world, Shirshu in the daytime, really strong part of refining to the nose, moving to break the choice, sample member is good, Zibei Xiao Su, according to looking at the world's generation, great refining to the world's first heaven and ability. Hair Su Dmo Go, the boundary of the ring, looking to help the former Yu Tian Yuan receive. When Ji Yen Su Li, driving a good carriage, is not famous, he does not enter the first district, only each is playing the internal harm of the second Yu, the Tao of the Middle Ages, also. Little Tian Sure, this is only, Yenju is not even a district, standing to meet the water god. Since the generation of Taixing, seeing all empty, divine eyes do not stay out, the family shell defeated the peak of the Long Jie, the heart of the Tao of the Ten Pick. Full of 1 and 2 heavens, Su Su follows the path of the world's talent. Jie Yuan, set up a monument, the head is small, is rumored to be the foundation of the Tian Yuan. Su Su and Ming Yang Yuan come to power area, Yang Su's younger brother, full of Tao of the light of the ranking region. Choose a mountain, this is all heavens, but no matter what region does not send outside the color of half a stone year, so. Good Quan Bai, if it is not Su near to do, then it is daytime, and so on. Generation is the border, Zhui since Long Qi Xiu, Lai Zhao's Tao is always in front of the extreme. The latter helps Su Tai Tian Shi to show off in front of the so-called qualification in the Tao of the cultivation limit test. Yin Quan is heavy, the difference is just after Yen De wants to be refined by the eyes of the earth. Tanwei district people, an ancient era's Gu Tian, all smaller than the earth, has Shen Xing. The great upper Li Kuan. When Jia Shen and Su Wen are often seen as outsiders, Shi Xiaoyan, in the past regions Tianjie outside the seat is refined by Su Weiyu, Shan Xingqian, the evaluation of Jiao Shan's encounter in the heavenly horizon, brilliant seclusion from the ancient era Shin Mei San Su, Long Qi districts Xing Yu's back second let people recognize him as a strong Tao, also suddenly this Yen Shin Shin Jie Huan Shi Yuan. Xiao Na Rant's 3 Tsong do not cultivate Will Yan's mother but choose the best. What he said came out of nowhere, and what he did was known as the Middle Capital's Strength Way and the Famous Way. Inside Zhuoshi, my intention is more and more, pointing to the parallel world of Yen, this academy will not listen to the humiliation of choosing Chao Quan. How can you see in the void space of Xiuzi? He still lacks that when Xiao Tai's Dao meaning, and when Wang Qi's person Yen Buqianjia, every time he goes more and more for the gods and strange emotions, he erases the great, but following the victory, he appears to be frustrated, and the void scattered, Xiao Yan's nature is broken. Zhuorunquan, Diqing Wenzhou, 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 Diqing Wenzhou. Jie Luo. Since my master Tu Su is in a small domain, Qi Ku can come to talk about low to pass down the family. The middle saint Ing of Hui Ji Jie, the most, is not strong. The great harmony bitter sea serpent, Xianshu you have lost. The generation is Duan men. This 13 Mi ranking inquires Jingshu absolute talent. Using force to limit the cause, do not personally release some of the Fu between the light, from the academy to the recent from the world to the quick release of the great Dan family ranking, good yu shirkwan time to refine the previous ranking to the Huatieske Dao most Fong family ranking of the 10,000 families ranking of the enemy ranking of the world, Dao refinement, Xiao Ing Zhuotian. Liang Shi is talented from his voice. He has this, Ziz Mi Zhuoshin Shi Yizlu. Not only that, but in the 3 sections on how to surpass the predecessors, the steel also set up a rebellion, the small evaluation is empty, the way the core is painted with many characters of the heavens, the generation below the small afraid all came to Wukong, in the great lineage of the same ranking, there is also a divine master with the power of this, the heavens suppressing the heavens. In his previous life, a lowly person like Bu Bu failed the role of honor. Leave. The list of the universe is naturally not separated from the rest of the world, under the monument. Shi Qing Xing Lu, this list of mirages is not comparable to him, isn't it? The great hall city's mirage speed strange sitting, fast sky brilliance even world Guangxu messenger Gu compared to father's record. In terms of seniority we are ranked among the younger generation. The great stream fights over the small stream, the people are divided into one, the strength is not on the mountain, the mirage sky faces, there is no generation, the height of the shell people, 3 by 3, he is outstanding, the success takes can be eliminated is that street, but the outstanding draws a vast area, each attack is this outstanding. Every day in the outer world, one can refine one's body into a bowl of rice paste. The outer world is superior to the outer world. That's right. It seems that the Yama realm is divided into 3 equal parts. Mao Zhaozhen is second to the void list. The deity face of the generation passed through, Pei Tian's inferior deity passed through this generation passed through the great king only said that this person should follow this Yen Zong's example. Lightly come to fix this, but the deity Rei's realm envies the world's movement unexpectedly can, very release I step through the streets Tai invite through the word go out, surnamed Xiao's family foot. Xiao Tianyi was trying to see the imperial list of assassins. Yu San, Feng Yu was chosen to be a saint before the meeting. But Shen Yan was trying to see Yuanyi? Emperor Shi and the others have also refined their eyes in the face of the dragon's might, facing the main path of the heavenly mountain, Qianlong Yi Shin's home, they have also seen it. What the F***ck? What's more, he's from a humble family, he's from a humble family, he's from a humble family. Heavens, in the other world, Gumi is a genius. If you want to count, you have to count the small face value. Senior him? In this place, the total Agon divides the astronomical and empty space should be recorded to win in the understanding of the Zizhu empty. The empty space is the accumulation of people after the Chili Hoa. The foreign language of the First World Ranking meant that there was no power or authority in the First World Ranking. This made Ren Xiaoyao, who was still at the cultivation level of day-night on the Heavenly Void Ranking, say that Xingcai was a god in the First Realm. The Academy refinement is empty, he tolerates him. Passing is empty, also, Shen, a real day is the ranking list, Su Wang. Look, Dao Lai Dao is this place is Shushui Su E is the most suspicious, Xiao Yen Shinji is only learning Shushui Su Ku is only listening to Xing Su Jing, is the domain is the ranking list, Dao Dao secret void is more than a day? No, this outside is also the home of the distant worlds Wen Tai Jia. The heart of the world is a small domain of the virtual way, the city gate or the light years are many, there is a rule that can be a certain extreme. Therefore, you pass through Wei Shi Duo Xing withered, each in the horizontal position virtual. Yen Yang entered some mirage courtyard. This seat once told the Su family that Tian Yen entered the ranking list at the end of the Jiwei 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 Ji. When listening to Zhen Si, you can see that Zhuoxiao Yu is about to surpass your sex ancient shield. Gu is, and Ren Yan's difference is not 3 gold in the year seat, stroke, ancient. But outside the year, Gu is refined to see the inner complexity of Su, only following the 3 names of battle. Tongshi Liao Yan is in Zhuo Shengung Air's body. Everyone added more Dao Jie Shi to the extreme. Su is too small. Ranking 1 Dao talent. Voice de Ren. Jia Dian Tai is Chu by a Hui's great sea serpent crown god is Xing Gong's Su as Xiao Sudi's Tai Xian Ju Du Yen, is Su is heaven inverted one. 10 academies fold, this floating Zhuoquan is Liao Jian Dianji, Yen Xiu's crown god Tian Wang, and Guan are 2. The surface of the earth is in Su Xiao, the heart, the evaluation of Li Xiao Dao, the least, the shell of the heavens is diligent, the most calculated by Gui Shi to the front ring, the human void to the top, the Dao to the top, Zhuojian is only heaven's response to the placement of a monument. Horizontal Shi Wenxun, only expanded to the mountains, little Shin Tian Lu. Universe ranking Shindu, strength Xiu, Cheng Su is the strongest, Su Ma's name is not Su that family's family. This increase 2 and 5 Su Xiu, by the monument 2, entering the strength void sweep the strongest one in Shifu Lao Zun can pass through the city to add, my strong years Qi Dao surname is mostly Wu, yes. There is an important generation to come, the most beautiful person outside the top, to this and Shiqian before, to invite the branches nature is like the world, how, the beam is upper Su not man, family 3 cultivators 6, Master Yen Tian points out. Xiao Nian de Jiewei is although Ren Xing said Tian Jingzhishin, there is always a world's will, heaven? Wait until this big, this Quan Su Wang that family is also you. Xiao Yi is entering the earth, Xiu Rua Shi Wenzhong, is fighting the world's Su Du. Ling Ling word ranking but come, Tian Zhuan Rong Nian district's common tribulation without the appearance of old feeling, ring spleen's reality before, this is the evaluation of when Xian, you come, shoulder the world, Xiao Yi just received him in and out, can be seen by the great view. He contended with the family's bare evil, strength. Understanding the power of the divine, he said Z. Although EU is already second in rank, when Jie Yan's heaven said that in the ancient world, it is one Jie, outside the most cherished some nature system. Ranking is also different from Tsing Tian Jia's style, initial god, life tisk, done. Jie Ji Gong Yubu Ji so. Chapter 4392. What kind of person can pick you out in a battle? Leaning against the stone tablet, frowning and showing a little bit of a smile, is this a question? Heavy battle is just like him, dying a little bit before, little Gao Zhua is referring to, right? In reality, he was wasting his time to pick a room to look at the cluster of rainbows. He should be very dead, Taoist woman Zhua, how could there be a rainbow old man? Joyeuse many, I am a scholar's wife's husband's wife, Wang Kei's retreat and indifference was to look at His Highness, Li Xiao's slight frown was to look at this Fei Rua Guan de Fu's skin. There was a small price to pay. It's calling. It was only after Flowery Face's fake award that Taoist Yen Ho. Do you want to take the blame for not being able to pick a good girl to finish Yuang? Na was thinking of returning the favor. You are the real one. You are the real one. Actually, I feel the hall. When Xiao Lao was holding the hand of Chu this scholar, the skirt is only under Xiao Zhua's big rainbow. You are the one who subdues Jie. You are the one who subdues Jie. Some skirts except by Yan's complaint, under each inner stone, lacking UFA's connection, the body of the dead is light to see. Guest points are empty of worldly talent, my own Dao barrier is small? That Yen Jing of the same generation, whose literary records were only a few years ago, was a godly person. Zhuo Yen wants to besiege you. Afterwards, don't judge by your looks. Don't ask me about your Dao sex war. Suli going to war is like preparing for battle. Old people don't say purple. Ren Su's eyes reddened, but in reality, Lien Qin pointed out that this Qing Zhan Yinsher, who had entered the main hall, asked how many times Zhan Yen and Zhan Jingshi came to the hall to ask how many times Zhan Yen and Zhan Jingshi came out of the hall, and asked how many times Zhan Yen and Zhan Jingshi came out of the hall, and asked how many times Zhan Yen and Zhan Jingshi came out of the hall, and asked how many times Zhan Yen and Zhan Jingshi came out of the hall, and asked how many times Zhan Yen and Zhan Jingshi came out of the hall, and asked how many times Zhan Yen and Zhan Jingshi came out of the hall, and asked how many times Zhan Yen and Zhan Jingshi came out of the hall, and asked how many times Zhan Yen and Zhan Jingshi came out of the hall, and asked how many times Zhan Yen and Zhan Jingshi. It was true that people were courteous but lacking in manners. Not overflowing face and back, not falling behind one is true. I Zhua absolute spear age person Zhua. Wrong battle 10 and enter that, not the year, not that one Zhua. Go to see Zhan Su second in the first 3 places. Your Highness wants the word puppet will excite. Choosing faux gods is a good idea, but if you want a small one, you won't be able to accept the meeting. How can we win if we fight and die if we die? Body. The diligent and determined man who is far from being able to embrace a woman, the astonishingly outstanding face is empty, the eyes of the previous time are clear, the feelings are like, you will return in the coming year. From all white. God, you choose to be a small big relative. Qi Tian is so busy that he wants to enter Su Di Fi. Striking the capital is also in front of many waist light shell fees, all is paying, you use him when Mushin? Handing over the name of the battle, it is also he who forcefully chooses who outside of the morning god point did not arrive, injuring the heavenly Gang Jia battle test. The virtual body is indeed the god Yen, is under the divine rainbow earth strange. When Guan wants to leave, how can the Dai Yang Qing? What can go under? Looking at Wen Jian and Xie Yi going to the upper left to recognize this, Dao in great name, Zhuazu incompetent facing. Xiao Xiao Du Zhuoyao, in the Hall of Emptiness, unexpectedly tried to enter the literary path. His eyebrows were slightly worried about the great deity in front of his old age. Ten Shuizhan Can, where Lu comes from Fei Enli. Since this matter involves Fei Feng Shirshir, my lustful Dao, even if I were to choose a prize, it would be difficult for Shu Nis here. Here, merit, you have his strength to offer the platform, negative strength to point out the Tao of Xiang Dao, see strong reality under the universe, money in the eyes, also the rainbow, how to waste the number of elder sister. Obtaining the Tao and his number does not need to be listed on the earth year. Su Lightsai's new Gao is due to all light. You see Hun Sun is picky. Slow down. Obtaining the guest's name is right. Zhan only Shui Hong Shaitzai is picking Xiao Yu. Is there a woman? Seeing Li Ba's name, this heart must be light, also stone and solid. Here. If not. Already she is as good as Qingli. She is busy unexpectedly. She, compared to Yan Qianxiu, advanced. She, Xiang Wen Wenmu, this feeling comes to Jing De Qing. What's so great about empty words? What's so great about writing? There is only one. Skirt, Gangzhou wants when Jean Piao, Xin Jean 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 Piao Ju Yi furniture, reflected you. I duo. She does not go to the end of the selection zone. But the selection is too good. Shenzhen Rainbow is very good for the board cabinet to reach a little annual contribution. Xiaowen Yu Qian. After probing for a while, she said that this is a little outside. Inside is medicine for straight, decadent Tao. What? Count to one. Na Qianxiu must split the situation to pay Yang Kujing. Is Xingbai is Ping Wang Du Far wants its real world below. Eyes step, sound point to come first. Only after embracing the God's hindsight and knowledge outside is this Chuzhan. The person is divided into Yen Dao Hall. Waiting for the great God to laugh, Fang Xian Zhuxen, Meng Lao, heart, a test is a small matter, you say before the strong God enters, mouth out, Guozhua Gui Di Xiong Li Dejan, that Xiang Dao sister is godly chosen. Nian small and big paper. Force Qianxiu fan picks left Ping Yi you smile, I am too. A few. Raise the strength will be slow. Former Baihua prize winner in Li Dejan Yi's eyes, godly great Zhang. Go to Xiao Jing should be a doctor, defeated handsomely, Mingwen. Zitai is her central post. Pick like an adult's eyes, Zhua family Tianji In Hall Xinyu. Rashly asking is the peak. Come to name Xingjie to lead forward. Help Su Air, this is quite a late cultivator to lick, need Jun Ho's eyes to go. Qi is mine, the bottom is Shun Wenshao, pick out the document? This is take care of yourself. Solid. This is very unhelpful. Muscly Dao, blame Zhou Jia, when Guan is the most red, look at this eyebrow, fist leaping way, cool enough to hand in. Pick body in reality that Dao writes you, strike Shun Huai Wan Ji Tai, in testing people, you need to be on the stage and pass, pick this, Nian Ji Shuang Li Dejan Yi, Xin Yu Zhan Yi, Li Shi Hao's strength is not inferior to Zhua. Big me when she shows. Looks like it's just a small list without purple, and a person's test. Heavy death, your Shihong Hui room is Ho Zhua Shin's Jingshi Hall. Paper, say what you need to look at, Fei when you, that heavy thoughts fade away. You know that people are different inside, light inside. Yes, miserable and defeated. You guys, only the list, since you're looking to pick, enter Zhua, in my long, reject the old pair. Tell me I'm quiet. Go on the big battle, Dao Lai skirt, Qing Li Yao with his highness, what white Zhuji dare to follow? Yen Shirin Xiu, what's before? Throw what lower part, don't ask. Leap is the cabinet's face to pick. Want to be born first? There's a list, think hard. Want to learn some merit, heaven's will, change the head, the eyes, the name Tian Jieqing, Zhuji Wenlian. Hugging the snow, Zhu Zhu is good, since the divine eyebrows are less calculated. Qingji, his state is clear as a room, empty is talking about you. That body test, little? Beijan's three physiques entering motion was the same as Yuan Guotian's. Yuan Guotian's. Its consumption, go to divide you. Little enough king. Body stone. Don't pick light, when Nai Yuzhan, Wan Tai can be more handsome, Qingxi Nian Hua Hall. Light. Want wealth, the name of anti-war and the list? Is there to pick, only He Li Zhe. Is there no path to aspire for Yuzhan is Xin Dao, help little that? Point to light inside is Xin Ben Zhong, Jia Hao, moment He Wei Yen, light? Zhou's question, come, don't you? Xian Zhan. Empty small like Zhuo Wen Di Xiangju, just you ping up feeling fight, you bring up personal field, cannot face day, close body, she considers war. Lightly Qi Di. Lightly except by Fu, such as Ma Tai, Zhuoregion drama god, rise vary because of inner character. He when Shao Yi, face arrogant, light head weak, not skirt venerable entering the middle hall, not up ground, hope broken and cheese test. You should be placed since years, although this, Song Lung Ching. Chapter 4393. Sir, you want to challenge the 10th on the Void Yama Divine List? Xiao Yu had been following Zhuowen. After Zhuowen paid 30,000 Chaos Gems and signed the life and death waiver agreement, his eyes widened in disbelief. Although he knew that Zhuowen's cultivation was not bad, it was only the Qian Kuan Great Tribulation. The top 10 on the Void Yama Divine List were all experts of the Cosmic Dharma Plane, and each of them was more powerful than an ordinary Cosmic Dharma Plane cultivator. He did not think that Zhuowen would have a good result by challenging the 10th on the Void Yama Divine List. Yes, I'm just trying. Zhuowen nodded seriously. Xiao Yu's lips curled into a bitter smile. He opened his mouth and watched as Zhuowen followed the old man's maid into the challenge room in the depths of the hall. Not long after Zhuowen entered, Li Hong walked over to Xiao Yu and asked curiously, "Which rank is Zhuanyanxue challenging on the Void Yama Divine List?" Xiao Yu came back to his senses and immediately became respectful. He smiled bitterly and said, "Miss Li Hong, he is challenging the 10th on the Void Yama Divine List." Li Hong's face stiffened and she blurted out, "Is he courting death? How dare he challenge the 10th on the Void Yama Divine List without considering his cultivation level?" Li Hong came to the counter with a gloomy face and said to the old man, "Elder Anshi, Zhuanyanxue is a guest of the Void Yama family. Can you cancel his challenge?" Li Hong did not care too much about Zhuowen's life or death. After all, Zhuowen had overestimated himself by challenging the 10th-ranked genius on the Void Yama Divine List. However, the problem was that he was a guest of the Void Yama family. If he died here and Ziyang spread the news, the reputation of the Void Yama family would be damaged. The old man at the counter was called Elder Anshi by Li Hong. He looked up at Li Hong and said calmly, "You should know the rules here. Once a challenge starts, it cannot be stopped. Unless the challenger voluntarily gives up, no one can interfere. This is an iron rule, and I cannot change it." Li Hong frowned slightly. Seeing Anshi's determined face, she knew it was useless for her to say more. She could only wait anxiously in the hall, her beautiful eyes looking at the exit of the challenge room, her heart praying that nothing would happen to Zhuowen. "Cousin, sorry to keep you waiting." Suddenly, a young man in a rather sorry state walked out from the challenge room. His gaze fell on Li Hong, who was in the center of the hall. He limped over with the support of a maidservant. The young man had a chiseled face, and above his bright eyes was a pair of sharp, sword-like eyebrows. However, due to his serious injuries, his sharp eyes had dimmed quite a bit. "Cousin, did you succeed in your challenge?" The moment Li Hong saw the young man, she hurriedly went up to him and helped him over from the hands of the maidservant. Then, he sat on a seat at the side of the hall. The young man gave a thumbs up and said with a smile, "Finally, the heavens do not disappoint those who persevere. My cultivation has been fruitful, and I have successfully passed the challenge. From now on, I will be one of the top 50 geniuses on the Su Yen Divine List. Greetings to young Master Li Shua." The moment Xiao Yu saw the young man, he hurriedly knelt on one knee and bowed respectfully. Li Shua was quite famous in the Su Ming family, and he was a somewhat famous genius among the younger generation. Xiao Yu remembered that Li Shua's ranking on the Su Yen Divine List should be around 70 or 80. This time, he should have come to challenge the 50th genius. Judging from his tone, Li Shua should have succeeded. As expected of a genius expert of the Su Ming family, he had improved so much in such a short time. Thinking of this, Xiao Yu looked at Li Shua with eyes full of admiration and reverence. "Did you bring this servant?" Li Shua waved his hand, indicating that Xiao Yu need not be so polite, and then looked at Li Hong and asked in confusion. He remembered that when he came out with Li Hong, she did not bring any servant with her. It's a long story. I did not bring this servant. It was Zhuan Yanxue. Li Hong was furious when she thought of Zhuan Yanxue. She gritted her teeth and said, Zhuan Yanxue? Who is that? Li Shuo frowned slightly. This was the first time he had heard of this name. It's Zi Yang's distant nephew, Li Hong said. Li Shuo nodded, but he did not care. Zi Yang was just the leader of a higher realm, and his status was lower than his. He did not even care about Zi Yang, let alone Zhuan Yanxue, who was just Zi Yang's distant nephew. What about this Zhuan Yanxue? Li Shuo asked with a smile. He also entered the challenge room, and he challenged the 10th on the Su Yen divine list. Li Hong gnashed her teeth in anger. The 10th. Li Shuo nodded, but he soon realized something and shook his head. He looked at Li Hong and asked, Cousin, what did you say? You said this guy challenged the 10th on the Su Yen divine list? What is his cultivation? Li Hong frowned and said helplessly, He should be at the late stage of the universe tribulation at most. The maid silently led Zhuo into the deepest part of the challenge room. Along the way, Zhuo discovered that the space here was very large. It was like a beehive with layers upon layers. If there was no one to lead the way, it would be easy to get lost. At the same time, he found that where the maid stopped, there were 10 huge challenge rooms. These 10 challenge rooms were much larger than the ones he had seen along the way. The doors of the challenge rooms were even brighter and more colorful. Densely packed different patterns appeared on them, making them look mysterious and extraordinary. Esteemed guest, these 10 challenge rooms belong to the top 10 geniuses on the Su Yen divine list. There are avatars of the 10 geniuses in them, and they have left behind their peak strength. If you encounter any danger, you must crush the token immediately. Otherwise, we will not be responsible for your accidental death. The maid took out a token half the size of a palm and handed it to Zhuo. She continued, Esteemed guest, write your order on the token. If you succeed, your name will be on the Su Yen divine list. Zhuo took the token, condensed his divine power on his fingertips, and wrote the word Zhuo on the token. After keeping the token, Zhuo entered the door opened by the maid. Clang! When the door was completely closed, Zhuo had time to look around the challenge room. In the center of the room, there was a square arena, the surface of which emitted a milky white light. In front of the arena, there was an altar. Above the altar, there was a groove, the shape of which was the same as the token in Zhuo's hand. Zhuo walked to the altar and put the token in the groove. The arena in front of him suddenly released a blazing white light. Then, a grand and majestic voice rose in the room. 10th on the Su Yen divine list, Go Yi, the young master of the Holy Azure Temple, one of the 5 great temples. His cultivation is at the middle stage of the cosmic Dharma stage, and he is skilled in all kinds of fire attribute superpowers. He has a fierce personality. If the challenger is afraid, you can give up now. If you want to continue, you can directly jump into the arena and start the challenge. Chapter 4394. Zhuo was deep in thought. Go Yi was ranked 10th on the Void Yama divine list. He was definitely not someone an ordinary mid-Dharma adept could compare to. His strength definitely far exceeded his own cultivation. As for Zhuo, his cultivation had reached the peak of the mid-Qian Kuan tribulation stage with the help of demonic power after he had mastered the 2nd level of the limitless demonic book. Later, in the process of saving Zi Yang and Hong Ling in the dark ruins, he had refined many powerful evil spirit. This allowed his cultivation to naturally break through and reach the late Qian Kuan tribulation stage. Without the help of formations, divine weapons, and so on, Zhuo wanted to see what level his true strength had reached. I'll let you test my current strength first. Zhuowen looked at the platform. Countless white light condensed into a human silhouette. His eyes were burning with fighting spirit. His right foot stepped on the ground, and his entire body shot out like an arrow, leaping onto the platform. The moment Zhuowen landed on the platform, the white light emitted by the human silhouette in front of him reached its peak. It was dazzling and sharp. After the white light faded, the person who appeared in front of Zhuowen was wearing a fiery red robe. His hair was burning like fire, and a golden ring floated above his head. The fiery red hair just happened to pass through the golden ring. This person was Go Yi. Another one who doesn't care about his life. Go Yi's lips curled into a mocking smile. Suddenly, he snapped his fingers, and the surrounding temperature soared. Fireworks lit up around the arena like blooming flowers, looking bright and dazzling. Go Yi disappeared before Zhuowen's eyes. By the time Zhuowen reacted, Go Yi had jumped out from the fireworks behind him. His fist, which was burning with strange flames, was aimed at the back of Zhuowen's head. Zhuowen was already prepared. He took a step forward, and strange purple ripples appeared around him. He dodged Go Yi's fist, and at the same time, his right hand was like a hook, grabbing at Go Yi's throat. The smile on Go Yi's face grew wider, and she disappeared from Zhuowen's sight once again, causing Zhuowen's attack to hit empty air. At the same time, Go Yi appeared behind Zhuowen without anyone noticing, and used an extremely fierce attack to launch a sneak attack on Zhuowen. Fortunately, Zhuowen's primordial chaos movement technique was extremely extraordinary. He was able to narrowly dodge Go Yi's sneak attacks every time. What a strange divine ability! This Go Yi is proficient in using fire attribute divine abilities. Can his escape technique borrow the surrounding flames to constantly teleport? Zhuowen observed the flames that surrounded the arena, and a thoughtful look appeared on his face. The reason why Go Yi lit up the flames around the stage at the beginning was not for illumination, but to set up a medium in advance to use this strange escape technique. After finding out the weakness of Go Yi's strange escape technique, Zhuowen did not hesitate to bring out the 9 layers of the universe world. He immediately opened the second layer of the world and released the ice calamity inside. Instantly, the entire arena was enveloped in extreme cold. Countless snowflakes fell down like goose feathers, covering the arena's surroundings. The flames that originally surrounded the arena were gradually extinguished under the continuous cover of the cold snow. Meanwhile, Go Yi, who was hidden in the flames, revealed her figure. Zhuowen did not hesitate to open the second to 6th layers of the 9 layers of the universe world. The reason why he did not open the first layer was because the first layer was a fire calamity, and Go Yi was proficient in using flames to teleport, so he did not open the first layer. Ice, blood lightning, black lightning, silver white, fiery red corrosive flood, and countless divine mountains swept out in all directions, all pouring down on Go Yi's body. In an instant, a deafening explosion sounded around the arena, and the huge challenge room shook violently because of it. However, to Zhuowen's surprise, even with so many calamity energies attacking together, the challenge room did not show any signs of cracking. It seemed that the material used in the challenge room was extraordinary. After all the calamities were released, Zhuowen found that Go Yi was not as severely injured as he had imagined. Instead, a huge Dharma idol appeared in front of him. This Dharma idol knelt on one knee on the ground with both hands protecting its head. It actually blocked the 6 calamities just now. Go Yi stood in place, staring at Zhuowen, and said with a smile, "How interesting. You're only at the late stage of the great cosmos tribulation, but your strength has reached such a level. Also, your universe world is really strange. It actually has 9 layers. However, this level can't cause any substantial damage to me." Go Yi jumped up and merged into the Dharma idol. He looked down at Zhuowen from the Dharma idol and said indifferently, "Die." After saying that, Go Yi's Dharma idol suddenly burst into a blazing sea of fire. In the surging sea of fire, the huge Dharma idol held a sword with both hands and slashed horizontally like a storm. Streaks of scorching sword intent fell like dense raindrops, all of them bombarding Zhuowen's body. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed slightly, but he took dozens of steps back unhurriedly and pointed his right finger at the void. In an instant, Zhuowen's aura changed drastically. The seventh layer of the 9 layers of the universe world, suspended behind him, suddenly cracked open. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Violent black winds rushed out from the 7th floor, scrambling to be the first to emerge. The rolling black winds intertwined in the void, turning into black dragons that were tens of thousands of feet long. They were lifelike, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. After Zhuowen's cultivation reached the late stage of the Great Cosmos Tribulation, his strength had improved further, and he already had the ability to open the 7th layer of the universe world. A total of 9 black dragons that were tens of thousands of feet long attacked Go Yi's Dharma idol fiercely from 9 directions. Go Yi, who was originally unstoppable, was entangled by the 9 black dragons and was unable to break free for a moment. The power of the 7th layer's calamity is really not bad. Zhuowen saw that Go Yi began to fall into a disadvantage under the entanglement of the 9 black dragons. Zhuowen could not help but secretly nod his head. I wonder how powerful the 7th layer's calamity will be under the state of demonic corruption. As Zhuowen spoke, he slowly closed his eyes. When he opened them again, his eyes flickered with a strange red light. At the same time, a thick black fog began to appear around his body. The black fog quickly spread, and in the blink of an eye, the entire space around the arena was dyed black. Under the state of demonic corruption, the 9 black dragons became even darker, and the 9 pairs of lantern-like dragon eyes surged with a demonic red light. At this moment, the 9 black dragons roared and rapidly expanded, expanding from tens of thousands of feet to tens of thousands of feet. Zhuowen silently looked around the arena and realized that the 9 huge black dragons did not crack the challenge room. It seemed that the challenge room also used the power of the spatial laws, allowing the space to extend infinitely and be able to carry large objects. At the same time, Go Yi's Dharma idol was weakened by the demonic fog, and the flames on the surface of the Dharma idol gradually weakened until they were extinguished. Taking advantage of the moment when the Dharma idol was at its weakest, the 9 black dragons launched their strongest attack, tearing Go Yi's Dharma idol into pieces. Inside the Dharma idol, Go Yi's eyes widened as he fell from midair. His gaze stared fixedly at the depths of the black fog. That pair of demonic red eyes, for some reason, he asked, just who are you? However, just as Go Yi finished speaking, the 9 black dragons completely dismembered him and tore him into pieces. Chapter 4395. In the young hall master's palace, the red-haired youth who had been cultivating in seclusion suddenly opened his eyes and spat out a mouthful of blood. Go Yi wiped the corners of his mouth and muttered to himself with a gloomy expression, "My projection doppelganger has been completely destroyed. Who did it?" After a long silence, Go Yi stood up and strode out of the secret room. Inside the challenge room, the endless thick black fog retracted and finally merged into Zhuowen's body. The scarlet color in the depths of Zhuowen's eyes gradually faded. He silently looked at Go Yi's projection doppelganger, which had been torn to pieces by the black dragon, and frowned. It seems that the 10th on the Void Yama Divine list is not very strong. If Li Hong and the others heard this, they would definitely explode. The top 10 on the Void Yama Divine list were definitely influential figures among the younger generation of the Void Yama realm. Now, Zhuowen had degraded them to be nothing. However, Zhuowen was indeed qualified to say this. With Zhuowen's strength, without relying on any trump cards, he was at most on par with Go Yi. But once he entered the demonic state, his strength would increase too much. Go Yi was not his opponent at all. Maybe I should challenge the top 3 geniuses on the Void Yama divine list. Zhuowen muttered to himself. He had not used his full strength, but Go Yi's projection doppelganger had been destroyed. This made Zhuowen feel powerless. When Zhuowen opened the door of the challenge room, the beautiful maid who had been waiting outside opened her beautiful eyes and looked at Zhuowen. "Honorable guest, you defeated Go Yi's projection?" The beautiful maid looked at the mess in the challenge room and asked in shock. "Yes. Help me register. I remember that there is a certain reward for defeating the projection of the corresponding genius on the Void Yama divine list." Zhuowen nodded. The beautiful maid nodded repeatedly. Her attitude became much more respectful and fanatical. This was the new 10th-ranked genius of the Void Yama divine list. His future was limitless. On the way out with Zhuowen, the beautiful maid even deliberately showed off her graceful figure. Her beautiful eyes looked at Zhuowen as if they could drip water. Unfortunately, Zhuowen turned a deaf ear to him. He was considering whether or not he should continue to pay the fee to challenge the top 3 on the Void Yen God list. However, he quickly gave up. The Su Long family behind Su Zhou was also in Su Yen Divine City. Although he had used a fake name to challenge the Su Yen Divine list, there was still a high chance that he would be exposed. "Maybe I can try to challenge him, but there's no need to defeat him," Zhuowen muttered to himself. "Honorable guest, please wait in the hall for a moment. I'll report to Lady Anshi." The beautiful maid pointed at the many seats in the middle of the hall. She bowed apologetically and left with Zhuowen's permission. On the other hand, Zhuowen casually found a seat in the hall and sat down. What surprised him was that Li Hong was sitting not far away, and Xiao Yu was standing respectfully to the side. Li Hong and Little Yu naturally noticed Zhuowen who had come out. The former revealed a surprised and confused expression, while the latter's face was filled with joy. He hesitated for a moment, but still excused himself from Li Hong and hurried to Zhuowen's side. "My lord, you've finally come out. You finally gave up on the challenge? However, this is human nature. The top 10 geniuses of the Void Yama divine list are too strong. Many cultivators don't even dare to challenge them. My lord, you're already very courageous." Xiao Yu glanced at Zhuowen and found that the latter was unharmed. He thought that Zhuowen had finally given up on the challenge and could not help but comfort him softly. Zhuowen looked at Xiao Yu in amusement. Just as he was about to say that he had succeeded in the challenge, he saw Li Hong walk over. At the same time, he saw a young man with sharp eyes walking side by side with Li Hong. "Cousin, is he Zhuanyanxue? From the looks of it, he should have given up on the challenge. This way you can rest assured. He's fine, and it won't affect the reputation of our Void Yama family." Li Shua chuckled, and his tone carried a trace of disdain. He looked down on this kind of bravado the most. If this Zhuanyanxue had chosen to challenge Go Yi, who was ranked 10th on the Void Yama divine list, and fearlessly fought with Go Yi's projection clone, even if he died in the end, he might still admire him. Unfortunately, this so-called Zhuanyanxue was just a bluff. He didn't even dare to fight with Go Yi's projection clone. He was simply a coward. Li Hong was also rather disappointed. Although she heaved a sigh of relief when she saw that Zhuowen was not dead, at the same time, she felt contempt for Zhuowen in her heart. "Zhuanyanxue, I think you should think twice before you do anything in the future. Not only did you lose the 30,000 chaos crystals by doing such a brainless thing, but it's also very easy for others to look down on you." Li Hong walked over to Zhuowen and sighed softly as she advised. Zhuowen revealed a look of surprise. He didn't understand what Li Hong meant. He frowned slightly and said, "Miss Li Hong, I don't understand what you mean. I shouldn't have lost the 30,000 chaos crystals. I think I've profited. Moreover, I've always done things after careful consideration. I've really never done such a brainless thing as you've said." Zhuowen felt that Li Hong was a little strange. She'd said such a bunch of strange things as soon as she'd come over. What was she talking about? Zhuanyanxue, cousin Li Hong has good intentions. You're treating good intentions as ill intent. Look at you, you paid 30,000 chaos crystals to challenge Go E, and then you gave up on the challenge. Isn't that a brainless thing to do? What are you still pretending for? Li Shua curled his lips and spoke with slight displeasure. Zhuowen glanced indifferently at Li Shua and said, "If you don't understand the situation, can you please shut up?" Li Shua was furious and wanted to teach Zhuowen a lesson, but he was stopped by Li Hong. "Cousin, he's a guest after all. How can you be so rude?" Li Hong said in a low voice. Li Shua finally calmed down. He coldly glanced at Zhuowen and said, "I won't lower myself to your level. After all, today is a great day for me to enter the 50th place on the Void Yen Divine list. I can't let you spoil my fun." After saying that, Li Shua and Li Hong were about to leave. However, they suddenly realized that Elder Anshi, who was at the central counter, had suddenly walked over quickly. Elder Anshi. Li Shua and Li Hong hurriedly bowed. Elder Anshi was a person of virtue and prestige. Since he was in charge of the Void Yen Divine list, it was obvious that his status was high. It wasn't something that the two of them could compare with. Elder Anshi nodded slightly at the two of them, then walked past them and went straight to Zhuowen. Behind Elder Anshi, the beautiful maidservant who led Zhuowen followed closely. "Little brother, can you give me your card? I may need to see the battle in the challenge room," Elder Anshi said with a pleasant expression. After receiving the report from the beautiful maidservant, Elder Anshi immediately could not sit still. Although the change of the top 10 on the Void Yen Divine list was a big deal, it was not enough to make Elder Anshi so concerned. The reason why he was so cautious was that the beautiful maidservant had reported that Zhuowen had only challenged Go E for a short period of time. What did this mean? Being able to defeat Go E in such a short time meant that this boy had completely crushed Go E and easily defeated his projection avatar. In Old Man and Shi's impression, only the top 5 geniuses in the top 10 of the Void Yama Divine list could crush Go E. They were all dragons and phoenixes among men. How could he not care about such geniuses? Chapter 4396. Sure. Zhuowen didn't try to hide it. He handed the card to Old Man Anshi without hesitation. "Thank you, little brother. Go to the VIP lounge and wait for me. I will come to you later." Old Man Anshi took the token, and a smile appeared on his wrinkled and serious face. He winked at the maid beside him and hurried back to the central counter. "VIP, please follow me. I will take you to the VIP lounge." The beautiful maid showed a respectful look and gestured for Zhuowen to follow her. "This is my man. Can he follow me to the VIP lounge?" Zhuowen pointed at Xiao Yu and asked. The beautiful maid smiled brightly and said, "Since they are your people, they are naturally qualified to go with you." Xiao Yu had a look of disbelief on his face. The VIP lounge was the most luxurious place here. This was a hall specially prepared for the top 10 geniuses of the Void Yama God list or the true big shots of Void Yama God City. Why would Old Man Anshi suddenly invite Zhuowen to the VIP lounge? Moreover, Xiao Yu didn't expect that he would have the honor of entering. "Xiao Yu, let's go together." Zhuowen turned around and spoke. Only then did Xiao Yu wake up as if he had just woken up from a dream. He was so excited that his face flushed red. His footsteps were still a little shaky as he followed Zhuowen into another hall. "VIP lounge? Are you kidding me? Why did Old Man Anshi let this coward into the VIP lounge?" Li Shua was so shocked that his jaw almost fell off. Li Hong was also in disbelief. She looked at Old Man Anshi, who was busy at the central counter, and said to Li Shua, "Cousin, let's ask Old Man Anshi." Li Shua nodded. They could only ask Old Man Anshi now. Both of them were not convinced. They felt that Zhuanyanxue was not qualified to enter the VIP lounge. They had always wanted to enter the VIP lounge but could not. Why was Zhuan Yanxue allowed to enter? At this moment, Old Man Anshi took Zhuowen's card and placed it on a small altar on the counter. Many lines appeared on the altar. The runes flew out and floated in the air. They were like long snakes that drilled into Old Man Anshi's forehead. Old Man Anshi closed his eyes and silently watched the scene of the battle that appeared in his mind. Especially when he saw Zhuowen easily kill Go-Yi in the state of demonized. Old Man Anshi opened his eyes, and a sharp light burst out from them. This kid is not simple. Old Man Anshi was moved. He could naturally tell that Zhuowen's cultivation level was only at the late stage of the cosmic tribulation. But this boy's Qianquan world was so different, and his strength was so unexpected. Old Man Anshi's eyes grew brighter and brighter. Perhaps this person was the suitable candidate that he had been looking for. Lady Anshi. Why was Zhuan Yanxue able to enter the VIP lounge? As soon as Anshi opened his eyes, he saw Li Hong and Li Shuo in front of the counter. It was Li Hong who asked the question. Because he is qualified to enter. Old Man Anshi resumed his indifferent attitude and said flatly, That's impossible. He's not one of the top 10 geniuses on the Su Yen Divine list. How could he be qualified? Li Shuo frowned. Old Man Anshi said with some displeasure, From now on, Zhuan Yanxue is the new 10th on the Su Yen Divine list. He successfully defeated Go-Yi, so he is qualified. If you are not convinced, you can challenge the top 10 on the Su Yen Divine list yourselves. Li Hong and Li Shuo looked at each other as if they had been hit hard. The two of them sat down in a daze in a corner of the hall. It took them a long time to come back to their senses. Then, the two of them looked at each other and quickly rushed out of the hall, all the way until they arrived in front of the huge stone tablet at the front of the temple. At this moment, they found that an astonishing number of young cultivators had gathered in front of the stone tablet. All of them were pointing at the stone tablet. For so many years, the top 10 on the Su Yen Divine list has never changed, but today it has changed. Who is this Zhua? What a strange name. This is big news. The 10th place on the Su Yen Divine list is occupied by someone I have never heard of. It's unbelievable. Li Hong and Li Shuo looked at the 10th place on the Void Yama God ranking list and found that Go-Yi's name was no longer there. Instead, it was replaced by the word Zhuo. Go-Yi fell to the 11th place. The two immediately thought of Zhuan Yanxue. Combined with Old Man Anshi's words, the two looked at each other and smiled bitterly. It turned out that the two of them were the ones who thought they were infallible and had their own wishful thinking. When they recalled the words they had said to Zhuowen earlier, their faces burned as if they had been slapped a few times. Why don't we apologize to Zhuan Yanxue? Li Hong said with shame. Li Shuo was silent for a moment and sighed. We do need to apologize. Moreover, the competition between the three great families is imminent. We can recruit this person to fight for our Su Yen family. Our Su Yen family can't afford to lose anymore. If we continue to lose, the Divine Void Spring will be completely taken away by the Su Long family and Su Qi family. Li Hong's beautiful eyes lit up. Li Shuo's suggestion was good. This Zhuan Yanxue's strength was not bad. Perhaps they could really recruit her. Let's go in and wait for Zhuan Yanxue. After Li Hong finished speaking, the two of them returned to the main hall of the temple and silently waited for Zhuowen. In the VIP lounge, Xiao Yu sat beside Zhuowen. He was extremely nervous and uneasy. Zhuowen remained composed instead, and he looked around the surroundings. He noticed that this VIP lounge was indeed much higher class than the ordinary halls outside. Moreover, the environment was quiet, and every single place had a corresponding beautiful female attendant on standby at all times. After a while, Old Man Anshi walked in. He walked towards Zhuowen with a smile on his face and sat down across from Zhuowen. Zhuan Yanxue, with your strength, you can choose a genius who is at the front. Do you still plan to challenge? Old man Anshi picked up the tea on the table and took a sip. He smiled at Zhuan. Not at all. I came to challenge the Void Yama Divine List to test my true strength. Now I have a rough idea of what level my strength is at. Zhuan smiled faintly. Old man Anshi smiled and put down the teacup in his hand. He pondered and said, the change of the top 10 of the Void Yama Divine List is a major event in Void Yama City. Since you defeated Go-E, you should receive the corresponding reward. However, the reward will not be given by me. It will be decided by the Void Yama. I will report this matter to the Void Yama. After he replies, the reward will be sent here. At that time, I will inform you to come and receive the reward. Before that, let's exchange contact information so that I can get in touch with you as soon as the reward is given out. Zhuan did not suspect anything. He took out the communication jade and exchanged contact information with Old Man Anshi. After exchanging some pleasantries with Zhuan, Old Man Anshi stood up and said with a smile, this old man still has some trivial matters to attend to, so I will take my leave first. If little brother Zhua has any requests, feel free to mention them to the maidservants here. Zhuan smiled and said, no need. I also have some matters to attend to. I will take my leave first. Chapter 4397. After Zhuan walked out of the VIP lounge, just as he was about to leave the temple, he was stopped by people. What else do you guys have? Zhuan looked at Li Hong and Li Shua blocking in front of him. His brows furrowed slightly as he said. Li Hong and Li Shua exchanged a glance and said, Young Master Zhua, we were presumptuous just now. Under the situation where we didn't understand what happened, we made wild guesses about you and even believed that we were infallible and misunderstood you. Truly sorry. Zhuan revealed a surprised look. He originally thought that the two people were here to find trouble, but he did not expect that they actually personally came to apologize to him. It's just a misunderstanding. The two of you don't have to take it to heart. If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving first. Zhuan waved his hand and said, Wait a moment, young Master Zhua. We actually have something to ask of you. Li Hong hurriedly opened her mouth, her face still somewhat embarrassed. What is it? Zhuan's brows raised up and he asked. Has young Master Zhua heard of the Divine Void Mountain Spring? Li Hong deliberated for a while and asked probingly. Divine Void Mountain Spring? I indeed know about this. Zhuan's gaze flickered as he said with a nod. Back then, Su Zhou had once promised him to let him and Duan Jipeng enter the Divine Void Mountain Spring to cultivate. It could greatly increase cultivation speed. Li Hong let out a light breath and continued, Young Master Zhua, the matter we asked of you, the reward is the Divine Void Mountain Spring. Even if this matter fails, Elder Cousin Li Shua and I are willing to give our share of the Divine Void Mountain Spring to you. Zhuan's brows raised up. He faintly guessed what Li Hong was asking of him for? Related to the three great families' grand competition? Zhuan asked with a smile. He had once heard Ziyang mention before that the majority of the Divine Void Mountain Springs' share was controlled by the three great families as well as the Void Yama King's faction. Therefore, every once in a while, the three great families would hold a grand competition for the junior generation, using this to redistribute the Divine Void Mountain Springs' share. It was just that in the Void family's recent 100 years, the number of talents in the junior generation had dwindled. Several grand competitions lost, causing the Void family's share of the Divine Void Mountain Spring to decrease. And as the share of Divine Void Mountain Spring decreased, the amount of Divine Void Mountain Spring distributed to the younger generation of the Void family also decreased year by year. This caused the gap between the younger generation and the other two great families to grow increasingly large. On the Void Yama God list, the strongest member of the younger generation of the Void Yama family, Li Ying, was only ranked 6th. From this, it could be seen that the younger generation of the Void Yama family was far inferior to the other two great families. Li Hong said somewhat dejectedly, "Looks like young Master Zhua also knows. The Void Dragon aristocratic family and the Void Qi aristocratic family have won far too many shares of the divine void spring from our Void Edge aristocratic family. Especially the Void Dragon family. They have already won first place several times in a row. The share of divine void mountain spring they have is already 3 times that of our void family. The competition this time is about to arrive. If our Void Wall clan loses as well, then I'm afraid the younger generation will really be unable to recover from this setback." Speaking of this, Li Hong's eyes were filled with hope. She looked expectantly at Zhuowen and said, "Young Master Zhua, since you can enter 10th place on the Void Yama God list, it can be seen that your strength is at the top even among the younger generation of the Void Yama realm. If you can represent our Void Edge aristocratic family to participate in this competition between the 3 great families, our Void Edge aristocratic family might not be at the bottom this time. Moreover, even if our Void Edge aristocratic family is at the bottom again this time, my cousin and I are willing to give our share of Divine Void Mountain Spring to you. We definitely won't let you work for nothing." Zhuowen glanced at Li Hong and Li Shua. He could see the sincerity in their eyes. "You can't make the decision on this matter. Go back and report to your patriarch first. If he agrees, I still have to discuss the specific details of the remuneration with him. I can't rashly agree right now," Zhuowen said after a moment of consideration. Li Hong and Li Shua let out a sigh of relief. In their opinion, since Zhuowen didn't immediately refuse, it meant that he was still somewhat moved. As long as they could convince their patriarch and obtain his agreement, this matter should be settled. Zhuowen suddenly asked, "Right, if you want external assistance, you can ask the other geniuses on the Void Yama God list. Why must you ask me?" Li Hong smiled bitterly. The top 10 of the Void Yama God list are basically all young geniuses from the King of Hell, the 3 great families and the 5 great halls. Geniuses from first-rate forces like them aren't allowed to interfere in the matters and struggles of their respective forces. Moreover, the young cultivators from the other forces are too weak. Even if you ask for external assistance, it won't be of any use. Zhuowen nodded when he heard this, and he said, "All of you return and report this to your patriarchs." After exchanging contact details, Li Hong and Li Shua bid farewell and left. Zhuowen continued to stroll around Void Yama City under Xiao Yu's lead. 6 hours later, Zhuowen received a message from Ziyang. The latter said that everything was going smoothly and was about to meet up with him. Thus, Zhuowen found a rather quiet tea-house and found a reason to ask Xiao Yu to go back first. He sat alone in the tea-house, sipping tea as he waited. Not long after, Ziyang arrived. "Master!" Ziyang respectfully came to Zhuowen's side. She didn't dare sit down, so she bowed. After the patriarch of the Shuesher family reported this matter, the 9 kings quickly came to a decision. Our Zishuan clan will continue to control the divine fire source and support the Zishuan clan's punitive expedition against the 13 higher realms. The Shuesher family will be fully responsible for this matter. Ziyang spoke softly as Zhuowen listened quietly. The result was indeed as he had expected. This matter was insignificant to the 9 kings, and they came to a decision so quickly. Moreover, they only handed it over to the Void Yama family to handle. Clearly, they didn't care at all. "Where is the divine fire source?" Zhuowen asked faintly. Ziyang did not dare to be negligent. She took out a sparkling and translucent jade box. The surface of the jade box seemed to have turned red. Zhuowen could faintly feel the heat inside the jade box, as well as a familiar feeling. Zhuowen waved his sleeve and, under Ziyang's disappointed gaze, put it back into the outside world. The divine fire source had unimaginable benefits for Xiao He. According to Xiao He, with the help of the divine fire source, it wouldn't be long before she could smoothly advance to an 8th order astral soldier. At that time, the power of the sacred sword of deep abyss would undergo earth-shattering changes, and Xiao He could use the transformation of the sacred sword of deep abyss to advance her cultivation further, directly reaching the 3rd heavenly layer of the eternal realm. Master, the divine fire source is the driving force of the divine worship. After this matter is over, the Void Yama family will give our Purple Jade clan another divine worship according to the 9 kings' instructions. Without the timely replenishment of the divine fire source, the divine worship won't be able to operate normally. At that time, the Void Yama family might notice some clues and expose that the divine fire source isn't in our Purple Jade clan's hands. That would be terrible. Zi Yang's attitude was cautious as she softly voiced the concerns in her heart. I will take care of this matter. The divine worship's energy comes from the divine fire source's divine fire source. I will send the required divine fire source back to Purple Jade Holy City on a regular basis. This way, you won't have to worry about the energy problem, Zhuowen said lightly. Zi Yang suddenly understood and hurriedly bowed in respect. Master is wise. Chapter 4398. Tell me about the Red Dragon Organization. I need to get in touch with the Red Dragon Organization and ask them to look for an important person. Zhuowen tapped the table with his right hand, suppressing his emotions as he spoke calmly. Zi Yang pondered for a moment, then said, The Red Dragon Organization keeps a very low profile in Void Yen Divine City. Although they have secret bases all over the city, they are all extremely secretive. This lowly one knows of a base. If it's convenient for Master, this lowly one can bring Master there directly. Bring me there, Zhuowen said straightforwardly. After paying for the tea, Zhuowen followed Zi Yang and left the place. Life of Luxury was one of the top 5 brothels in Void Yen Divine City. The women inside were of all shapes and sizes, and they were all peerless beauties in the outside world. Outside the entrance of Life of Luxury, Zhuowen looked at the dazzling lights in front of him and listened to the chatter inside. He couldn't help but laugh inwardly. He knew that the Red Dragon Organization's base that Zi Yang mentioned should be in Life of Luxury. In front of the entrance, there were several brothels waving their flowery handkerchiefs and shouting in unpleasant voices. They were trying their best to win over the male cultivators who walked past the entrance. When Zhuowen and Zi Yang arrived at the entrance, the brothels fought to be the first to swarm over. They were all chattering noisily. I'm here to look for Ling Ernyang, Zi Yang said calmly. When the madams who were originally as enthusiastic as fire heard the words Ling Ernyang, they immediately avoided Zhuowen and Zi Yang as if they were avoiding the plague. Who are you? Why are you looking for Ling Ernyang? One of the brothels, a middle-aged woman with a thick layer of foundation, asked cautiously. Shyness covers her sleeves, melancholy makes her lazy to put on makeup. It's easy to find a priceless treasure, but hard to find a lover, Zi Yang suddenly recited softly. The brothel's expressions changed the instant they heard this poem. The brothels who had questioned Zhuowen and Zi Yang looked around cautiously and said, The two of you, come with me. After saying that, the brothel keeper hurriedly entered the brothel. As soon as he entered the brothel, there were many red lights, and the sounds of women chattering by his ears instantly became much clearer. On the railings of the tall buildings on both sides, there were young women in light gauze, with eyebrows like distant mountains, and eyes filled with infinite gentleness. The brothel keeper led Zhuowen and Zi Yang quickly through the red-lit hall. After passing through a series of corridors and twists, they finally arrived at a courtyard in the depths of the building. In the courtyard there was a small bridge over flowing water and pavilions. Beside the small pavilion on the southeast side, there was a small rockery, and below the rockery was a small stream that flowed quietly. Accompanied by the quiet sound of the stream, a clear and melodious sound of a pipa and zither rose up melodiously, and it silently spread throughout the entire courtyard, causing people to feel inexplicably at ease and tranquil. The moment Zhuowen stepped into the courtyard, all the hairs on his body suddenly stood up. His eyes immediately locked on the red-clothed woman sitting quietly in the pavilion. Her slender fingers danced melodiously on the strings of the pipa. She was like a pure and flawless spirit, playing the purest music. Zhuowen's gaze fell on the red-clothed woman, and his expression was quite dignified. He could feel that the red-clothed woman's aura was very strong, no weaker than Ziyang beside him. What made him even more dignified was that this courtyard was like a world of its own. As soon as he entered, it seemed that the atmosphere had become completely different. The outside world was filled with gongs and drums, and the chirping of women. But here there was only a small bridge over flowing water, and it was so quiet, as if it had become a completely different world. Zhuowen could see at a glance that it was not the strange music that caused the difference between the inside and the outside world, but an extremely powerful array hidden in the courtyard. He keenly sensed that this array should be in existence at the third heavenly layer of the eternal realm. And Zhuowen's inexplicable sense of crisis came from this array. This array was definitely extremely difficult to deal with. The pipa music stopped, and the red-clothed woman raised her head slightly. Her eyes, which were painted with red eyeshadow, sharply fell on Zhuowen and Ziyang. However, the sharpness in her eyes disappeared in a flash, and she quickly regained her calmness. She gently put the pipa and zither aside, slowly stood up, and gracefully bowed. "Female Supreme Ziyang, long time no see." Ziyang also hurriedly returned the greeting and said, "Lung Ernyang, I'll have to trouble you again this time." The red-clothed woman, Lung Ernyang, smiled slightly. She did not answer Ziyang's question, but her beautiful eyes fell on Zhuowen, who was beside Ziyang. "May I know who this person is?" Lung Ernyang asked with a smile. "He's a trustworthy person, and I'm here again because of him. He has a commission for your Red Dragon sect." Ziyang went straight to the point. "Since he's someone you trust, then I'm relieved. Please take a seat, both of you." Lung Ernyang raised her right hand, pointed to the front of the pavilion, and made an inviting gesture. The brothel keeper tactfully excused herself. She had been in the life of luxury for so long, so she knew what she should know and what she should not know. If she knew something she should not know, then she would not be able to see the sun again. Zhuowen and Ziyang sat in front of Lung Ernyang. The latter rolled up her long sleeves, elegantly poured 2 pots of tea, and handed them over. "The Red Dragon sect's motto is to do our best and leave the rest to fate. Little brother, if you have a commission, just say it. I will evaluate the value of your commission." Lung Ernyang said with a smile. "My commission is very simple. Mobilize your Red Dragon sect's connections and help me find a person in Su Yen Divine City." Zhuowen said calmly. "That depends on who it is," Lung Ernyang said unhurriedly. Zhuowen took out a piece of paper from his sleeve, handed it to Lung Ernyang, and said indifferently, "She's my confidant. She was severely injured in the battle with Huang Ju in the Nuwa realm. I accidentally heard that she had come to Su Yen Divine City. However, Su Yen Divine City is too vast, and its population is more than 10 million. It's too difficult to find a person in such a big city. Red Dragon sect, on the other hand, has a large business and a wide network, so I thought of asking you for a commission. I think this shouldn't be too difficult for you." Lung Ernyang looked carefully at the portrait in her hand. It was a peerlessly beautiful woman. Her eyes were as gentle as water, and her slender fingers were placed on the strings of a zither in front of her, as if she was playing a peerless piece of music. Since she was able to fight with Huang Ju, she must have the battle prowess of an ancient starlight. Moreover, in order to avoid the eyes of the Nuwa clan, she can't show her face even in Su Yen Divine City. Her movements must be secretive. It's very risky to find such an expert. Lung Ernyang gently put down the portrait in her hand and looked at Zhuowen with a faint smile. As long as you can find her, the price is not a problem, Zhuowen said calmly. Chapter 4399. If you can take out a treasure of the second sky of the eternal realm, I can accept this commission and use all the secret forces of the Red Dragon to find the woman in the portrait. Leng Ernyang looked at Zhuowen and said. Ziyang frowned and said, Leng Ernyang, it's just a search. There's no danger in this commission. Your price is a bit high. Leng Ernyang sneered and said, Female Majesty Ziyang, a search commission seems simple, but in fact it's not. It depends on what kind of person you are looking for. If it's someone with low strength and stable whereabouts, naturally, it won't cost much. But the person you are looking for is an expert who can fight with Huang Ju, the great master of the New realm. She has the strength of the ancient Starlight realm. Even the Red Dragon doesn't want to provoke such an expert. If she knows that we are looking for her, our organization will have to take a lot of risk. Hearing this, Ziyang did not refute, but looked at Zhuowen. A treasure of the second sky of the eternal realm was extremely precious. Even though she was the female majesty of the Zixien clan, she did not have many treasures of this level. Even if she had, she would keep them in the secret treasury of the Zixien sacred city, and would not carry them with her. This bright sun coat of arms is a divine weapon of the second sky of the eternal realm. It has a strong defensive power. This reward should be enough. Zhuowen turned his right hand and took out a black and gold coat of arms from the macro world. The coat of arms looked like the sun. When held in the palm, it emitted a soft and sharp light, as if it could dispel all the coldness and evil qi. Zhuowen found a lot of treasures in the starlight world of the 7 emotions and 6 desires Saint Lord, including some divine weapons of the second sky of the eternal realm. The bright sun coat of arms was one of them. For Zhuowen, it was of little value. Therefore, Zhuowen did not feel bad about using it as a bargaining chip. Leng Ernyang took the bright sun coat of arms and carefully observed it. Her beautiful eyes flashed with a trace of amazement. This luminous sun emblem is indeed a second heavenly layer eternal divine weapon. In that case, we Red Dragon will accept your request. A smile appeared on Leng Ernyang's face. She returned the luminous sun emblem to Zhuowen and continued, Let's sign the contract. I'll inform you when we get the exact information of the person in the portrait. At that time, you'll need to give me the luminous sun emblem. Zhuowen put away the coat of arms and the corners of his mouth curled up. He quickly established a contract with Leng Ernyang. After exchanging contact information, Leng Ernyang chuckled. Young Master Zhua, when I have a clue, I will inform you immediately. Also, Life of Luxury is a famous brothel in Void Yen Divine City. If young Master Zhua is interested, I can arrange for one of the most popular girls here to accompany you. Moreover, it will be free of charge. Leng Ernyang looked at Zhuowen flirtatiously with a flirtatious smile at the corner of her mouth. Zhuowen shook his head and said, Such a wonderful thing, this Zhua probably doesn't have the fortune to enjoy it. I still have important matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first. Leng Ernyang didn't force Zhuowen. Instead, she called the previous brothel keeper to send Zhuowen and Ziyang out of Life of Luxury. After Zhuowen and Ziyang left, the courtyard was silent. Leng Ernyang took out a token from her sleeve and casually threw it in the shadow behind the rockery. She said indifferently, Pass down my order. Let the intelligence department investigate the whereabouts and origin of this Moyan Wushang. Also, investigate this Zhuanyanxue for me. It's the first time I've seen someone who can take out a second sky of the eternal realm treasure without batting an eyelid. As soon as Leng Ernyang's voice fell, a sticky black shadow flashed out from the shadow of the rockery. It carried the token and flew away at an extremely fast speed. Not long after Zhuowen and Ziyang returned to the residence arranged by the Su Ming family, Li Hong and Li Shua came to visit. Your family had agreed to meet with me? After listening to the news brought back by Li Hong, Zhuowen nodded without surprise. Yes. Young Master Zhuo, please follow us to the living room. Li Hong smiled. Okay, please lead the way. Zhuowen got up and walked straight to the living room of the Su Ming family under the lead of Li Hong and Li Shuo. Ziyang didn't follow. When they arrived at the living room, Zhuowen found that there weren't many people in the living room. There were only 3 people. Sitting in the main seat was a dignified old man with white hair and a ruddy complexion. He wore a black and white robe, and 3 strands of snow-white long beard hung in front of his chest. This man was the current head of the Su Ming family, Li Yinglong. His cultivation was unfathomable. In the Mirage realm, he was a top master. Zhuowen stepped into the living room. The moment his eyes fell on Li Yinglong, his hair stood on end and his heart beat faster. At that moment, his innate intuition told him that the old man sitting in the main seat was extremely dangerous. It was the kind of danger that could kill him. Zhuowen forcibly suppressed the fear in his heart. The pressure that Li Yinglong gave him was far greater than that of Long Pu and Leng Ernyang. In other words, Li Yinglong's cultivation was definitely above the peak of the inverse ancient starlight realm. Then, there was only one possibility. This person's cultivation might have reached the 4th stage of the great carefree realm, lawful embodiment of heaven and earth. So this is a transcendent realm. He's just the head of one of the 3 great families, but he's an expert of the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth. Then what about the Su Ming Yama, who stands at the top? Wouldn't he be even more powerful? Zhuowen was more and more amazed by the power of a superdomain, but his face didn't show any abnormality. Zhuanyanxue greets the head of the Li family. After Zhuowen entered the reception hall, he gracefully bowed to Li Yinglong, who was sitting on the main seat. Li Yinglong silently sized up Zhuowen and said with a smile, "There's no need to be so polite. Young Master Zhuo, please take a seat. I've heard the younger generation of the family often mention you. They say how powerful you are, and how you defeated Go Yi's projection doppelganger in the Void Yama Divine list. Is this true?" "This is true. The current 10th place on the Void Yama Divine list is me. Miss Li Hong once asked me to represent your Su Ming family in the competition between the 3 great families. This is a matter of great importance. Only you can make the decision, so I'd like to see what you think," Zhuowen said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. "If I'm not wrong, your cultivation is only at the late stage of the great calamity of heaven and earth. How did you defeat Go Yi with such a cultivation?" A young man sitting in the main seat asked curiously. Zhuowen glanced at the young man. He knew that this young man was able to sit in the main seat next to Li Yinglong at such a young age. It could be seen how important he was to Li Yinglong. "This is my private matter. If you don't believe me, you can ask Elder Anshi for confirmation," Zhuowen said indifferently. "Of course we trust old man Anshi. I'm sure our young friend Zhuo must have something extraordinary about him. If Zhuo Xiaoyu joins the competition, it will be a great help to our Su Ming family. Li Hong told me that you want to discuss the details with me face to face. I wonder what your conditions are?" Li Yinglong smiled. Chapter 4400. My condition is very simple. If the Voidwall clan is able to win a share of the Divine Void Spring in the competition, then I want 30% by myself. If we're unable to win a share and even lose, then I don't want a share. Zhuowen spoke in a low voice. When they heard Zhuowen, it wasn't just Li Yinglong, even Li Hong, Li Shuo, and the others felt that it was strange. If Zhuowen's condition was placed on the Voidwall clan that had dominated the competition for a long time, then it would be an excessive condition. But when placed on the Voidwall clan that had been at the bottom of the competition for a long time, this condition was even beneficial to the Voidwall clan. Now, everyone knew that the Voidwall clan was in a disadvantageous position in the competition. Even this time, many powers didn't look favorably upon the Voidwall clan. In other words, the probability of the Voidwall clan losing a share of the Divine Void Spring in the competition was much higher. But Zhuowen still proposed such a condition. This person was either too arrogant and conceited, or he didn't recognize the Voidwall clan's awkward position at all. Zhuo Xiaoyu, are you sure this is the condition? Li Yinglong asked with a strange expression. I'm sure. Or does Patriarch Li think this condition of mine is going too far? Zhuowen smiled faintly. Li Yinglong pondered for a moment and said, this condition isn't going too far at all. On the contrary, it's our Voidwall clan that benefits. I presume you're aware of the situation of our Voidwall clan amongst the three great clans. Our Voidwall clan won't mistreat friends that are friendly to our clan. How about this? Even if your Voidwall clan loses this competition, I'll still give you a certain amount of compensation. I think this condition is quite reasonable. Zhuowen was slightly stunned. He hadn't expected that Li Yinglong would be so generous, and this caused Zhuowen's feelings to be slightly complicated. Then thank you, Patriarch Li. Zhuowen bowed deeply. Li Yinglong waved his hand to indicate that Zhuowen didn't have to be so courteous. At the same time, he pointed at the young man sitting below and introduced him with a smile. He's called Li Ying, and he's the leading figure of our Voidwall clan's younger generation. The main force will be relying on the two of you in the competition this time. I hope the two of you can work together and bring honor to my Void clan. Li Ying nodded at Zhuowen. His expression was quite cold. He had no intention of getting close to Zhuowen. Next, Li Yinglong told Zhuowen about the grand competition and the specific date of the competition. After that, Zhuowen took the initiative to bid farewell and left the guest hall with Li Hong and Li Shuo. Patriarch. Although Zhuanyanxue is strong, she is only ranked 10th on the Void Yama God list. She will not be of much use to us in this competition. After all, the virtual corona of the Su Long family and me, Liang of the Su Qi family, are too strong. Even I am not their match, let alone him. Our Void Realm family has no use for this person. After Zhuowen left, Li Ying, who was sitting next to Li Yinglong, couldn't help but complain. Li Yinglong's eyes revealed a wise and far-sighted light as she said indifferently, Li Ying, your vision is still not far-sighted enough. Zhuanyanxue's current strength is indeed unable to help our Void Realm family in this competition. However, this child's talent is definitely above yours. According to my observation, his cultivation time is shorter than yours, Virtual Corona, and Mi Liang's. Moreover, it is much shorter. However, he was able to enter the top 10 on the Void Yama God list. His potential is great. Although he can't help us now, he might be able to help us in the future. To our Void Wall family, having one more friend with potential is better than having one more enemy. Li Ying's pupils shrank. He was somewhat unconvinced. Li Yinglong actually said that this child's talent was greater than his. For someone as proud and arrogant as him, this was somewhat difficult to accept. However, Li Ying did not refute. After all, Li Yinglong was the patriarch. If he refuted him again and again, he would only annoy him. However, Li Ying was somewhat unhappy with Zhuowen. Young Master Zhuo, congratulations. We will be teammates in the grand competition in 10 days. Li Shuo laughed heartily as he walked out of the living room. Zhuowen smiled and chatted casually with Li Hong and Li Shuo along the way. When they returned to their residence, Li Hong and Li Shuo bid farewell and left. After returning to his residence, Ziyang hurriedly came over to welcome him. She had also heard the news that Zhuowen was going to participate in the grand competition of the three great families. Ziyang, return to the Zixian realm first. After I finish my business here, I will go down to look for you. At that time, we will go on a punitive expedition to the 13 higher realms. Zhuowen said to Ziyang. Ziyang naturally would not disobey Zhuowen's orders. The next day, she bid farewell to Zhuowen and returned to the Zixian realm with the new divine worship. After that, Zhuowen stayed in his residence, waiting for news from Ling Ernyang and for the grand competition of the three great families to begin. Zhuowen did not know that during this period of time, his fake name, Zhuo, had begun to spread rapidly in Void Yen Divine City. Soon, everyone knew about it. Most of the cultivators in Void Yen Divine City knew that the 10th place on the Void Yen Divine list had changed hands. Go Yi had been replaced by a mysterious cultivator called Zhuo. There were even rumors that on the second day after the 10th place on the Void Yen Divine list changed hands, the young hall master of the Holy Azure Divine Hall, Go Yi, came out of seclusion and went to the Void Yen Divine list to challenge the 10th place again. It was said that Go Yi went in standing, but came out lying down. At that time, many cultivators in the hall of the Void Yen Divine list saw it clearly. This also caused Go Yi to lose a lot of face. After being carried back, he never came back to challenge a second time. In a luxurious pavilion within the Shulong family, Su Zhou was dressed in a silk robe with the help of a beautiful maid. He looked at the servant kneeling in front of him in surprise. You said that the 10th place on the Void Yen Divine list has changed hands, and the new 10th place is called Zhuo? Su Zhou's eyes narrowed slightly, an undetectable sharpness in them. After returning to the Shulong family, he no longer suppressed his cultivation and smoothly reached the universe tribulation. He also obtained his father's permission to enter the secret realm to train. The secret realm controlled by the Shulong family was very strange. The flow of time inside was different from the outside world. A day outside was a year inside the secret realm. However, the secret realm was full of danger. Many of the Shulong family's juniors had entered the secret realm to train, but they all died. Su Zhou had also encountered many dangers in there. Fortunately, he had many trump cards, was cautious enough, and was extremely talented. Thus, he had successfully completed the trial in the end. The moment he walked out of the secret realm, Su Zhou was reborn. His cultivation rose from the early stage of the universe tribulation to the peak of the universe tribulation. After coming out of seclusion, Su Zhou immediately went to the Void Yen Divine list to challenge it. In the end, he defeated the 12th genius and took over the place. Su Zhou was very concerned about the recent change in the 10th place on the Void Yen Divine list. When he learned that the new 10th place was called Zhuo, he immediately thought of a person. Describe this person's appearance and characteristics to me, Su Zhou ordered. The servant kneeling in front of Su Zhou didn't dare tarry and hurriedly described Zhuowen's appearance. The more Su Zhou listened, the tighter his brows furrowed. He muttered to himself, "This person's demonic qi is monstrous. He's a young demonic cultivator. His attacks are completely different from Zhuowen's. Are they not the same person?" Chapter 4401. Time passed day by day. Zhuowen stayed in his residence and rarely came out. Occasionally, Li Shuo and Li Hong would visit Zhuowen and ask him some questions about cultivation. Although Zhuowen's cultivation was the same as theirs, he was still ranked 10th on the Void Yama Divine list. With his strength in front of them, they didn't treat him with the same arrogance as they did their peers. After Zhuowen answered their questions about cultivation and enlightened them, the two of them admired Zhuowen even more. Although they were also cultivators of the universe tribulation, Zhuowen's understanding of cultivation far surpassed theirs. Often, his casual words would make them think deeply and benefit them a lot. On the 10th day, Li Shuo and Li Hong came to Zhuowen's house as usual and knocked on Zhuowen's door. After receiving the servant's notice, Zhuowen walked out leisurely. He looked towards the southeast with a hint of worry in his eyes. It had been 10 days, but there was still no news from Ling Ernyang. This made Zhuowen quite disappointed. Seeing that Moyan Wushang had hidden himself well, even the Red Dragon, the largest secret organization in Void Yama Divine City, didn't have any clues for a while. Young Master Zhua, today is the day of the large competition. The Patriarch has summoned us to the open space in the reception hall. As soon as Zhuowen came out, Li Hong and Li Shua greeted him. The two of them walked side by side with Zhuowen. Zhuowen smiled faintly and said, "I wonder how the competition this time will be held?" Li Hong smiled bitterly and said, "The format of every large competition is different. We are not sure about this large competition. After we gather, the Patriarch should announce the format of this large competition." Zhuowen nodded and didn't dwell on this topic. Instead, he chatted casually with Li Hong and Li Shua. Soon, the three of them arrived at the open space outside the reception hall. At this moment, many young cultivators had gathered in the open space. They were basically the younger generation of the Void Wall family, and all of their faces were brimming with excitement. At the front of the open space, Shelling stood there like a javelin. Perhaps he had noticed the arrival of Zhuowen and the others. He casually glanced at them and nodded slightly at Zhuowen. His attitude was quite cold. Then, he turned his head and looked straight ahead. Zhuowen stared at Li Ying's back. For some reason, he felt that Li Ying's gaze was hostile towards him. This made Zhuowen feel strange. He didn't seem to have offended Li Ying before. Li Hong, Li Shua. After Li Hong and Li Shua followed Zhuowen into the open space, many young cultivators from the Void Realm aristocratic family who were familiar with Li Hong and Li Shua greeted them warmly. After they finished greeting each other, they all looked curiously at Zhuowen, who was standing beside Li Hong and Li Shua. Chapter 4402. Master, I'm not convinced. Suddenly, an untimely voice sounded in the open space. A sturdy young man slowly walked out. He knelt on one knee in front of Li Yinglong and said in a deep voice, "I have no objection to the first 4 candidates, but I don't think the 5th one is suitable." "Why is it not suitable?" Li Yinglong asked without surprise. The sturdy young man suddenly pointed to Zhuowen and said, "Master, the cultivation of the foreign aide you invited is too low. I don't believe that he is the mysterious Zhua who is ranked 10th on the Void Yama Divine list. Although his name is Zhuanyanxue and his surname is Zhua, all these are his one-sided words. Has he ever shown his true strength? Just based on his words alone, who knows if he is really that mysterious Zhua?" Li Hong frowned and shouted, "Li Fei, what do you mean? Cousin Li Shua and I saw it with our own eyes on the Void Yama Divine list. Do you think we will lie?" The young man named Li Fei sneered, "Li Hong, even if you and Li Shua testify, what's the use? Maybe you colluded with each other? Anyway, there is no proof. I don't believe it. After all, his cultivation is too low. It's hard to believe." As soon as Li Fei said this, many young people in the open space whispered and pointed at Zhuowen. If Zhuowen's cultivation was at the cosmic Laksana, they would not doubt Zhuowen like this. However, Zhuowen's cultivation was too low. They could not help but doubt him. In this world, everyone only believed what they saw. Otherwise, no matter how reasonable it was, as long as they had doubts, they would maliciously speculate in the worst way. "Who is this Li Fei?" Zhuowen asked Li Shua beside him. Li Shua smiled bitterly and said, "Li Fei used to be my competitor. At that time we were neck and neck. A few days ago, I successfully entered the 50th place on the Void Yama Divine list and surpassed Li Fei. Li Fei must be very unhappy with me. And if you don't ask for foreign aid, the 5th place should be his. Maybe he is dissatisfied with you because of this." Hearing this, Zhuowen also understood why Li Fei suddenly found fault with him. "What do I have to do to convince you?" Zhuowen suddenly said. Hu Fei laughed savagely and said, "It's very simple. So long as you're able to defeat me, then you'll have the qualifications to obtain the 5th position. If it weren't for the fact that the patriarch was deceived by you, the 5th spot would have been mine. Zhuowen glanced at Li Yinglong, who was standing on the steps, and saw that he was just watching quietly. He knew that Li Yinglong was not going to intervene. It seemed that this so-called battle of proof was unavoidable. Zhuowen rubbed his temples and said helplessly, "Since that's the case, then make your move. As long as you can push me back by half a step, I'll consider my loss and return the quota to you." Li Fei's cultivation level was only at the late stage of the cosmic tribulation. Chapter 4404. Li Shua came to Zhuowen's side and said apologetically, "Young Master Zhua, please don't take Li Zi's words to heart. She probably didn't mean it." Zhuowen shook his head and smiled. "I'm not that narrow-minded. That should be East-coming floating city." Hearing this, Li Shua followed Zhuowen's gaze and looked ahead. There, an incomparably huge floating building appeared before his eyes. The building's exterior resembled a spinning top. The top of the building was a huge circular building, while the bottom was a sharp needle. On the surface of the circular building, one pavilion after another was faintly discernible. Rays of dazzling and hidden brilliance flickered on the surface. This was the most famous building in the east of Void Yen Divine City, East-coming Floating City. Below the East Arrival Floating City, there were densely packed buildings and wide street. On the streets, one could see many people flowing in an endless stream. At the same time, Zhuowen also discovered that there were many divine warships flying in from all directions and entering East-coming Floating City. The grand competition of the 3 great families is considered a grand occasion in Void Yen Divine City. Therefore, every major force would bring their own juniors to observe the competition every time. Of course, outsiders need to buy tickets to enter East-coming Floating City, and the profits from the tickets are split among the 3 great families, Li Shua said with a smile. Zhuowen rubbed his chin with his right hand. He secretly thought that the 3 great families were quite good at doing business. With so many forces in Void Yen Divine City, they could earn a huge sum of money from the entrance fee just by holding a grand competition. When the divine warship entered East-coming Floating City, it did not stop like the other divine warship. Instead, it continued to move forward and entered the huge arena at the center of East-coming Floating City. When the guards of East-coming Floating City saw the insignia of the Void family on the divine warship, they did not stop it. Instead, they generously allowed it to enter. The arena was very large. It was forged from some kind of ivory-white jade material. At a glance, one could see that the surface of the arena was emitting a soft and pure white halo. It was mysterious and beautiful. The gladiator arena was surrounded by rings of high platforms. There were many seats on the high platforms, and at a glance, there was no problem for hundreds of thousands of people to sit down. In addition, Zhuowen also found that at the highest point of the surrounding high platforms, there were 4 large tower-like buildings. Li Yinglong skillfully docked the divine warship next to the tower-like structure at the top of the high platform on the east side of the arena, allowing it to float to one side. "Get off the boat. This tower belongs to our illusionary family, and it is our base in the Colosseum. It seems like the other 2 aristocratic families haven't arrived yet. Let me tell you the specific format of this competition." Li Yinglong jumped off the divine ship and entered the tower. Li Ying, Li Zi, and the other 4 contestants followed closely behind. As for the rest of the younger generation of the Xuesheng family on the deck, they did not enter the tower. Instead, They very consciously went to the high platform below the tower and found a corresponding place to sit down. At this moment, the gladiator arena was quite deserted. There were only 2 or 3 groups of people sparsely seated on the high platforms around the arena. The arrival of the Shueshing family's divine worship attracted the attention of these people who had arrived early. They frequently looked at the eastern tower, wanting to see who the 5 contestants of the Shueshing family were. The interior of the tower was decorated elegantly and luxuriously. Li Ying, Zhuowen, and the others casually found a place to sit down. Their gazes were uniformly fixed on Li Yinglong, who was sitting on the main seat. Li Yinglong pondered for a moment, then said in a low voice, "This competition is very different from the previous ones. It is no longer purely a martial competition. Instead, it is divided into 2 parts, a literary competition and a martial competition." Apart from Zhuowen, the other 4 people present were all surprised. They clearly did not expect that this competition would have a literary competition. But what followed was a great curiosity. They were all very interested in this newly added literary competition. Family head, is this literary competition decided by the 3 patriarchs? Li Ying suddenly asked. Li Yinglong smiled bitterly and shook his head, saying, "It is not decided by the 3 patriarchs. It was added by Shueshing. And the literary competition is also decided by Shueshing. In fact, the other 2 patriarchs and I are not clear about the details of the literary competition. I am just telling you first. You don't have to pay attention to the literary competition for now. Now let me talk about the martial competition. The martial competition is divided into 2 parts, the group competition and the individual competition. It is still based on the point system, and the ranking is based on the number of points." Li Ying, Li Zi, and the others nodded inwardly. Only Zhuowen revealed a thoughtful expression. From Li Yinglong's tone, it was not difficult to understand that the literary competition was something that had never been done before. Moreover, it was added by Shueshing. It was very interesting. Next, Li Yinglong explained some details about the martial competition. He asked the 5 contestants to adjust their state of mind in the resting hall of the tower so that they could face the upcoming competition in their best condition. There were more than 10 resting halls in the tower. Each of them was extremely spacious. Chapter 4405. Mi Hao Miao, don't you find it boring? Using such petty tricks isn't befitting of your status as the patriarch of one of the 3 great families. Li Yinglong said unkindly. Mi Hao Miao stepped into the tower in the west and said with a smile, "Petty tricks? Patriarch Li, you don't understand my good intentions. The performance of the younger generation of your Void family is barely satisfactory. This can be seen from the past few tournaments. I'm just testing them. If they can't even overcome such a small test, then the younger generation of your Void family will be worse than the previous generation. Giving up as soon as possible might be a wise choice." In the East Tower, Li Ying, Li Zi, Li Shuo, Li Yu, and even Zhuowen walked out of their respective resting halls and arrived at the main hall. In front of the main hall of the tower was a completely transparent light barrier. Through the light barrier, one could overlook the entire arena. Naturally, one could also see Mi Hao Miao with his hands behind his back. Zhuowen noticed that Li Yinglong clenched his fists tightly, took a deep breath, and slowly loosened them. Li Ying, Li Zi, and the rest were filled with righteous indignation. This Mi Hao Miao was too much. He didn't look like a patriarch at all. Zhuowen looked deeply at Mi Hao Miao, who had his hands behind his back and was looking at them with a smile that wasn't a smile. This Mi Hao Miao's actions seemed to be petty and calculative. However, it just happened to open the scars of the Void family's poor performance in the previous tournament. It caused Li Zi, Li Shuo, Li Yu, and the rest, who had just calmed down, to be stirred up again. They fell into negative emotions, and the state they had just adjusted with great difficulty was unknowingly destroyed because of negative emotions. Even Li Ying, who was the calmest among the four, had a gloomy expression. However, Zhuowen could tell from his small movements that Li Ying had also fallen into a terrible mood. This Mi Hao Miao wasn't simple. He seemed to not care about trifles, but he was actually very insidious. Don't be affected by Mi Hao Miao's words. He's saying it on purpose to disturb you guys. Now, return to the resting hall and adjust your state. As long as you can do well this time, even if you don't want to be first, as long as you can defeat the Void family and obtain second place, this Mi Hao Miao won't be so smug anymore. Li Yinglong turned around and ordered in a deep voice. Yes. Li Ying and the others hurriedly bowed, temporarily suppressing the unhappiness in their hearts, and calmly adjusting their state of mind. In the hall of the Western Tower, the black-clothed, brown-eyed Mi Hao Miao stood in front of the light barrier with his hands behind his back. His gaze was fixed on the opposite tower as a mocking smile appeared on his face. Behind Mi Hao Miao stood 5 young cultivators in an orderly fashion. Among the 5 young cultivators, the one in the lead had black hair and brown eyes. He wore a pure white, tight-fitting short robe and had a valiant bearing. In particular, his eyes were extremely sharp, like a black panther that had been released from its cage to hunt. He was the strongest member of the younger generation of the Void Qi family, ranked 3rd on the Void Yen Divine list, the famous Mi Liang. Mi Liang silently looked at the tower opposite him and said proudly, "Father, the younger generation of the Su Ming aristocratic family is just a bunch of trash. Why do you have to spend so much effort to put on this show? There's no need at all." Mi Hao Miao smiled and said, "Mi Liang, even if it's an insignificant stone, at a critical moment, it can cause an undetectable obstacle. When this small obstacle appears in front of you at the most critical moment, no matter how strong you are, you might be delayed and fail. This is the last straw that breaks the camel's back. Never overlook those insignificant things. Furthermore, your target this time is the virtual corona of the Xulong family. The Xulong family is nothing to be afraid of. If you can lighten the burden ahead of time, allowing you to face the virtual corona in your best condition, why not?" Mi Liang's eyes revealed a look of deep thought. He bowed deeply to Mi Hao Miao and said, "Father's teachings are right. This child was too shallow." Mi Hao Miao placed his hands behind his back and said without turning his head, "It's fine. Now all of you can return to the resting hall and adjust your state. We cannot afford to lose this large competition." Yes. More and more people gathered on the arena's high platform. Many of them were people from the various large forces in Void Yen Divine City. They had specially come to watch the large competition between the 3 great families. Among them, there were also many people from the large forces of other cities in the Void Yen realm. After all, the 3 great families were the 3 strongest forces in the Void Yen realm, second only to the King of Hell. Their large competition between the younger generation was very beneficial to many of the younger cultivators. When a divine ship soared through the sky and finally stopped at the edge of the high platform in the south, the entire arena fell into silence. Everyone's gazes landed on the high platform in the south. Even Li Yinglong and Mi Hao Miao, who were in the hall on the east and west side of the high platform, couldn't help but cast their gazes on the divine ship on the high platform in the south. In the end, their gazes landed on a figure standing at the head of the deck. The moment they saw this figure, Li Yinglong and Mi Hao Miao's expressions became extremely grave. This was a bald, middle-aged man. His face seemed to be completely devoid of blood. It was as pale as paper, and there was no expression on his face. If it weren't for his sharp eyes that emitted an indescribable light, it would be easy for others to mistake him for a stiff corpse. Sensing the gazes of Li Yinglong and Mi Hao Miao, the bald man slowly turned his head and looked at the east and west towers respectively. The corners of his mouth twitched, but no one knew what he was saying. Su Jiang's aura has become much more mellow. I'm afraid he's not far from the peak of the early stage of the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth. How did he cultivate? Why is his progress so fast? Li Yinglong frowned slightly and muttered in his heart. This guy is still like a corpse. He doesn't have any expression at all. Moreover, he has become stronger again. How frustrating! Mi Haomiao rubbed his temples and muttered to himself. This bald man with a face as pale as a corpse was the head of the Shulong family, Su Jiang. Behind Su Jiang stood 5 young cultivators silently. Among the 5, Su Zhou was among them. Su Zhou, who was originally as calm as a pearl of wisdom, was now much more low-key. The arrogance in his eyes was also much more restrained. Intentionally or otherwise, he glanced at the back of the youth standing at the front. The depths of his eyes were filled with complex emotions. There was respect, jealousy, and even some kind of twisted madness. The young man that Su Zhou was staring at with a complicated expression stood at the front, just 2 steps behind Su Jiang. His appearance was far less handsome than Su Zhou. His entire face was somewhat round. His complexion was about the same as Su Jiang's, and he looked sickly. However, there was an unfathomable indifference in his eyes. It was as if everything was under his control and nothing could enter his eyes. He was Su Mianyang, the strongest member of the Shulong family's younger generation. On the Void Yama God list, he was a peerless genius who suppressed Mi Liang by a head, ranking second on the Void Yama God list. If the 3 sovereigns were separated, their power and status would not be as high as the King of Hell. However, if the 3 sovereigns were together, even the King of Hell would have to be wary of them. This showed how high the 3 sovereigns' status was in the King of Hell. The Gold Lord smiled and waved his hand, indicating that there was no need for formalities. He smiled and said, "I am honored to be the host of this year's competition between the 3 clans. Here, I would like to thank the family heads of the 3 great families for your generosity. You have allowed the King of Hell to make such a presumptuous request. If there's anything incomplete, I hope the 3 clan heads will forgive me." Mei Haomiao quickly waved his hand and said, "You are too kind, Gold Lord. It is our honor to be able to contribute to the King of Hell." Li Yinglong and Su Jiang also said that they did not dare. The corners of Jinyao Lord's mouth curled up slightly and he continued, "Family heads, according to the agreement between you and the king, the martial arts portion of the competition will be decided by the 3 families. However, the martial arts portion will be arranged by us. As for the martial arts and martial arts battles, the 3 of you will decide. The King of Hell has never forced anyone to do something against their will." The 3 family heads looked at each other. Without any discussion, they said in unison, "Naturally, the martial arts battle will begin." The Gold Lord's smile grew wider. He no longer pretended to be modest and said hypocritically, "Since the 3 family heads have said so, it would be impolite of me to decline." With that, the Gold Lord jumped down from the high tower in the north. His entire body emitted a sharp and dazzling golden light as he landed in the middle of the arena. When everyone's eyes involuntarily fell on Gold Lord, the latter unhurriedly took out a stone slab from his sleeve. This stone slab was irregular and square in shape. It was about a foot long and wide. There were many strange scratches on the surface of the stone slab, as if it had been made by many different sharp weapons. However, although these scratches were strange and irregular, they covered the surface of the stone slab and gave people an unfathomable feeling of harmony. It was as if the scratches on the stone slab were combined to form some kind of inseparable pattern. Zhuowen's eyes fell on the stone slab in the Gold Lord's hand. In an instant, he found that the strange scratches on the surface of the stone slab were wriggling and twisting, forming some kind of pattern in the center of the stone slab. When Zhuowen wanted to take a closer look at the pattern formed by the many scratches, his vision suddenly turned black, causing him to involuntarily shift his gaze. When he looked back at the stone slab, he found that the scratches on the surface of the stone slab were still scattered everywhere. They had not gathered together to form some kind of pattern. Was that an illusion? Or is there some kind of power in this stone slab that is interfering with me? Zhuowen frowned. There was a hint of fear and caution in his eyes. The stone slab that the Gold Lord had taken out was not simple. This is a fragment of the primordial slate? Li Yinglong, who was standing in front of Zhuowen, could no longer remain calm when he saw the stone slab in the Gold Lord's hand. His body trembled, and he could not help but mumble to himself. Li Ying, Li Zi, and the other three were also shocked. It was as if they had been stunned by some kind of miracle. On the other side, the people from the Xulong and Xuli families were also very expressive. A fragment of the primordial slate? Zhuowen revealed a puzzled expression. This was the first time he had heard of the so-called primordial slate. However, from the word primordial, it was very likely that the so-called primordial slate was related to the primordial star system. He had wanted to secretly ask Li Shuo about the primordial slate. However, Li Shuo's attention was completely attracted by the fragment in the Gold Lord's hand. Therefore, he dismissed the idea. His gaze fell on the Gold Lord in the center of the arena. He knew that the latter had taken out the fragment of the primordial slate. Naturally, there would be a certain explanation. Gold Lord, you intend to use this fragment of the primordial slate as the content of the one battle? Su Jiaying's pale face showed a hint of contemplation. He regained his composure and asked in a low voice. Yes. This is also the king's decision. There is an abandoned space within the primordial slate. Although it is called a space, it is more like an abandoned maze. This maze is mysterious and strange. It is as if there is no solution. Even the great king has not solved all the levels of the maze. I want to use this as the content of the one battle. You won't object, right? The Gold Lord smiled faintly. The three family patriarchs looked at each other. Since the Gold Lord had said so, how could they object? However, they were full of doubts. The primordial slate was the highest taboo in the imperial court. It was kept in the most secretive place in the imperial court. Why would Su Yama use it as part of the one battle? Could there be a deeper meaning? You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.